Amazing. Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. I say that not just for my benefit, but for Parker Olson here, who has been awake for about 45 minutes or something like that, right?
Pretty close.
So, yeah, that's okay. Hey, some days, same here. Some days you're just a little slower out of the gate. And since we're not on the radio yet, I can tell you it was Ron Johnson's fault, but I can't tell you how yet because we're still working to get clips of him and then set the record straight, which actually takes work. And it won't be ready today. But thanks, Ron Johnson, for making me late for work. Anyway, welcome aboard. We do have plenty of other things that we're going to be talking about today on the program, including Amy Barilo from Clean Wisconsin is going to be talking about data centers and all the water that they need. And that's not a great thing. Heather Dubois-Bornon will be here from the Wisconsin Public Education Network to talk about a new program to increase taxpayer transparency when it comes to the private school voucher scheme. So we'll get into all of that. We'll be visiting with Jimmy Kuska. We'll be visiting with Earl Ingram. Let's see, Melissa Kay. Oh, and then right near the end of the show, because of the way scheduling worked out, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley will be along, talk about joining the race for Wisconsin governor. So that'll be at 8:50. So stick around for that. And if you can't, well, all the more reason to get us as a podcast. But as for the show itself, it starts in 4 minutes across the Civic Media Radio Network and right here. We'll see you soon.
Supporters flooded a school board meeting Monday night for a chance to talk directly to school board members. Here's part of what Asha herself had to say.
I am fast. I hold all city records and pool records across Madison. Being part of a team makes me feel like I am part of something bigger than me, a community.
The families say another student with disabilities was excluded too. Aurelia Bergstrom is a freshman at West this year. Her dad, Charlie Bergstrom.
There's a silent, nefarious message being sent to all kids that those with disabilities are less than, potentially reversing all the work that the district, the staff at West in particular, that Coach Elmaker has done to foster a culture that's actually in line with the stated goals of the district.
A spokesperson for the district released a statement to multiple outlets saying, quote, "The Madison Metropolitan School District is deeply committed to ensuring that all students have access to safe, inclusive, and welcoming opportunities in our schools. We understand the importance of athletics and co-curricular programs to the educational experience and encourage involvement to the greatest extent possible," end quote. The families are asking the district to reverse course and let the girls back on the team. I'm Savannah Tomei-Olson, 92.7 WMDX News.
The Brewers wrap it up in Texas. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with Sports Baseball. Game 3 of the Brewers-Rangers series today in Arlington. Milwaukee losing again last night, this time 5-4. The Rangers rookie Michael Hellman, the star again, with a leaping catch over the outfield fence to deny Bryce Terang a home run. And then he went out and hit his own 2-run homer in his next at-bat. The Brewers have reactivated Rhys Hoskins after missing 57 games with an injured thumb. NFL, the Packers signing wide receiver Christian Watson to a 1-year extension worth $13 million. Watson suffering a torn ACL early January against the Bears, expected back later this season. The Packers play the Commanders tomorrow night at Lambeau Field. Kickoff 7:15. Offensive tackle Zach Tom and guard Aaron Banks, both questionable for the game. College football, the Wisconsin Badgers play at Alabama for the first time ever this Saturday. Kickoff 11 a.m. It looks like Danny O'Neal will again start at quarterback. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Come work with us. Civic Media has a number of great jobs across the state. Open now at civicmedia.us/careers.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Bormans. Maybe a few sprinkles in the morning. Otherwise, partly sunny skies can be expected. Another nice September day with highs in the mid-70s. Partly cloudy skies expected tonight with lows in the mid-50s. A bit summery on Thursday. Plenty of sunshine with highs near 80 degrees. Currently, it's 55 degrees.
Where working people come to talk. It's the Rick Smith Show, weeknights at 9 on the Civic Media Radio Network. Join me for an honest approach to the issues American working families care about. No talking points, no focus groups. Get ready for a heavy dose of democracy, fairness, grit, and no apologies. It's current affairs from a working class labor perspective. Facts are center, science is real, and everyone gets a seat at the table. The Rick Smith Show, weeknights at 9 on the Civic Media Radio Network.
For 75 years, the Muscular Dystrophy Association's voices have thundered through the halls of Congress.
For 75 years, we've willed the impossible into existence.
For 75 years, the MDA community has pushed the science,
shifted the narrative,
and established the field of neuromuscular medicine.
And until that day,
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is 6:06 on a Wednesday morning, September 10th, 2025. It's another beautiful morning to have you here up north, live from Lake Wissota, from wherever you're listening across the Civic Media Radio Network, or through the app, or on social media, or by podcast. We appreciate you starting your day right here. I got a question for you. Do you make a casserole with tater tots? I mean, I've made casseroles before, but I finally crossed a threshold in the use of tater tots. And it has more to do with my love of my cast iron skillets than anything else. But we'll get into food talk coming up in just a bit. But I feel like I've either crossed some kind of a boundary in my kitchen or with my age that I'm now using tater tots in my casserole. All right, and much more important news coming up later in the show. We're going to talk live with Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, the most recent candidate to get into the 2026 race for Wisconsin governor. We'll talk about his decision to run and what he wants voters to know about his experience and his positions as the field grows a little bit larger and more candidates yet to be expected to run for the governor's post next year, with Tony Evers not running for a third term. In this hour, well, Derek Van Orden doing Derek Van Orden things. It's already well documented that Derek Van Orden spends a lot of time scrolling and trolling through social media, but even by his standards, it was weird that he put a new comment on a photo from a post from 2 years ago. Even weirder, the photo he commented on shows him on the U.S. Capitol grounds on January 6th, 2021, and the comment he put was, "Hell yes." Now, Van Orden claims he did not take part in the domestic terrorism that followed on that fateful day, but really, is it that much better to simply be a spectator to a treasonous mob after deciding he would fly there to support a knowingly false claim about the 2020 election? And oh, wait, there's more. Wait till you hear what he had to say yesterday about the Epstein Files case. Also ahead, one of the biggest billion-dollar surprises in Wisconsin, I think, would be if you were to find out how many taxpayers have no idea how much public tax money is going to the private school voucher scheme. It's more than 700 million this year, and it is getting close to that 10-digit annual payout. And we'll tell you how a group is launching a transparency campaign to build public awareness before this program swallows up more of the state budget and skims even more resources away from our neighborhood schools. We'll have a guest from Clean Wisconsin on how all those massive new data centers are sucking up groundwater wherever they pop up. That might be good for all these servers and their artificial intelligence, but not so good for the neighbors whose wells have run dry. So all of that ahead between now and 9 a.m. And if you can't stick around for all of it, that's why we got a podcast version of this program as well. You skip the commercials and everything else. So head over to Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, and become a subscriber and catch everything that we are working on. Let's look at the forecast from meteorologist Brittany Merlot, who will be here less than an hour from now. She says better weather is around the corner, cranking up the humidity and the temperatures for the weekend. So summer will make a return. And I guess you could say tomorrow, roughly, is when summer comes back for a spell. I don't know how long. It looks like, a good week or so of summer-like weather is coming back. For today, however, isolated showers to start the day, then more spots of sun later on. Highs will be in the upper 60s up north to the mid 70s south with a light southeasterly wind. For tonight, mixed skies and mild, Brittany says. Lows tonight around 50 up north, 55 to the south with a light wind out of the east. Right now, it is 59 degrees here in Chippewa Falls and just pleasant as all get out. What do you say we check the conditions in Madison? Head down to Madison Studio A2 at Civic Media's Global HQ at the top of State Street, 1 block off the Capitol Square, where Parker Olson's camouflaged. There's a Civic Media banner behind him. I think that's a Civic Media t-shirt he's wearing. I can't see him with all the Civic Media logos around.
I'm everywhere. You can't find me.
Yeah, I can hear you, though. How are you this morning?
Doing pretty well, Pat. It's nice-ish, I think. It felt nice when I walked out the door, but I was not out the door for very long because I woke up very late today and got up, dressed, and to work in about 25 minutes, half an hour.
Who doesn't love that routine when you wake up and realize, oh no, it's time for the speed round of getting ready. I feel very fortunate, knock on some wood here. I have not had to do that yet for this particular, show, but there have been plenty of times in the past where you just kind of open your eyes, and especially if both spouses forget to set an alarm, and eventually one wakes up and you hear the other one going, oh no. And then you're shooting out of bed and flying around to get ready. So Tony asks on YouTube, is it because you stayed up late listening to Stacey Abrams and Madison last night for Cap Time's Idea Fest?
I should have. That's a better idea than what I did because I just watched the Brewers lose.
Oh yeah, no, that wasn't pleasant at all. We'll get to that in just a bit. So what did the alarm go off, or was the alarm just not set?
Oh, the alarm went off.
Oh,
there's
okay.
4 alarms, Pat.
Oh, this is a 4-alarm job that you have. This is great. Okay.
Yes. There are contingency plans, and those contingencies did not work. And thankfully, I'm too anxious to miss work miss work. So,
see, anxiety, you can use it to the good. So yeah, you got that going for you.
Got my stamp of approval,
which is nice. Well, let's see. I already connected with some folks here on YouTube. Michael saying tater tot casserole is the best. I made it last night, he says. Tony says, I love tater tot casserole. So there you go. The story on that is there was a block party here, and then we did not know if we were going to go to it or not in our neighborhood. And as you know, we ended up going out of town to visit some friends, but I had all the ingredients just in case. And for this particular gathering, I thought, well, let's make some kind of a casserole. Then I realized when I make something, it's usually like, like pasta based, for, like some elbow macaroni or, noodles or whatever. And the whole reason I've never used tater tots is because it sounds like too cliche. Like that's what every Midwesterner does is they put the tater tots and then they put the green beans in there and all that. I'm just like, I don't want to do that.
It's very true.
What I found was basically a cheesy, cheeseburger casserole with tater tots. So it was ground beef and cream of mushroom soup, and then just the right combination of spices, and then some sharp cheddar cheese. That to me made all the difference. And then throw the tater tots on top, throw it all in a big old cast iron skillet, and put that thing in the oven. And oh man, when you think tater tot casserole, what do you think? You think bland, right? I mean,
I suppose.
I'm not saying this was spicy. I'm just saying it was the recipe I found online.
Sharp cheddar really got you.
The sharp cheddar really does it. No, that and the other spices. Speaking of the skillet, Tony asks, did Pat make shepherd's pie last weekend? No, I did not. I know I said I was going to, and like I said, plans changed, but there will be before too long. Roger on Facebook writes from Stevens Point, a tater tot casserole isn't a tater tot casserole until it includes the second ingredient, cream of mushroom soup. Yes, that's very true.
So you passed.
So yeah, I had that. I just went with the ground beef and the extra sharp cheddar, the secret ingredient.
Very important.
I love that. This is This is also new to Parker. Like, oh god, he's talking about cream of mushroom soup and tater tots. But
Yeah.
there are other things I could be talking about in the
This is
news.
true. I would rather hear this than
Yeah.
BBO talk.
Yeah, well, we'll get to Derek Van Orden and what all he had to say
Right.
recently coming up before long. But I suppose we better get back to the Brewers game from yesterday. But let me take you all the way back to May 19th when Michael Hellman was just a sad little rookie who'd been put on waivers by Pittsburgh and picked up by the Texas Rangers. Michael Hellman has found his groove in Arlington, and he has made life miserable this week for the Milwaukee Brewers. On Monday, he hit his first ever grand slam and had 5 RBIs total. And then last night, Hellman hit a 2-run homer and made a leaping backhanded catch over the fence and left center to rob Bryce Serang as the Rangers beat the Brewers again. This time the score was 5-4. And the Cubs also won. So the Brewers' magic number to clinch a playoff spot remains at 2 to clinch the division 11, if I'm not mistaken. So we move on from here. We wrap up the series with a day game today. It'll be Freddie Peralta going for his league-leading 17th win if he were to get it today in Game 3 of the series. The pregame will begin at 1 o'clock on several Civic Media stations. And then day off tomorrow, and it's back home for a weekend series with the St. Louis Cardinals. So it would be nice to have the Brewers get back to their winning ways, especially this afternoon, but certainly in time for a division series against the Cardinals.
Yeah, it'd be really nice if the Brewers could find a way to hit the ball where people aren't.
Oh my gosh, have they had a habit of that in some of these games?
I don't know how many people have been watching these games instead of just listening on the radio, and I'm sure it comes across on the radio too.
Mm-hmm.
But my goodness.
Yeah.
They are finding gloves like nobody else.
It's almost like, the reverse method. Like they're like, here are the outfielders, hit the ball to the target.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if or how they would even track this, but if there were a stat for hardest hit balls that were caught directly by the outfielder that, had they landed just a few feet either side would have gone to the fence. The Brewers got to be way up there on that.
I would think even infield too, because there was the first baseman for the Rangers last night had like 3 look what I found catches.
Yeah. Yep. It happens. All right. Let's move over to football here, where I just heard this from Mike Clemens and had to confirm it myself. I had to see it to believe it. Christian Watson signing a 1-year deal, an extension for his contract worth $13 million through 2026. He is still recovering from an ACL injury. And then I know he had some other injury before that. So apparently he's supposed to be back later in the season or not. We'll see. The thing is, again, he is clearly a talented receiver, very talented. But I mean, he and Garrett Mitchell for the Brewers. I mean,
Garrett Mitchell, man.
I mean, those two just cannot stay healthy for as much talent as they have. And it's just it's frustrating for the fans. It's got to be massively frustrating for them. Although for them, they still get these $1 million paychecks. So maybe it is a little bit more frustrating for us. Nobody's giving us $1 million for our frustration. But the Packers are on a short week. They're a little banged up. This could make things difficult tomorrow. Yes, I said tomorrow. The Packers kick off week 2 of the football season, hosting the Washington Commanders. Coverage will begin tomorrow at 5 p.m. on WRCO in Richland Center, WCQM in Park Falls, WRJN in Racine, WAUH in Watoma. And, of course, the Wisconsin Badgers are playing at Alabama this Saturday. Coverage begins at 9 o'clock Saturday morning on stations in Richland Center, Amory, Wisconsin Rapids, and Ripon. All right. Well, when we come back, we will talk about Derek Van Orden and the way he just casually dismissed one of the latest things we've learned about the Epstein Files case. From the heart of America's up north, live from Lake Wissota, thanks for making this the place to spend a part of your mornings. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Christian Watson is such an interesting case because he
Yeah.
actually had like hamstring issue, like physical issues with his hamstring, whether he was injured or not.
Yeah.
And he did a study at Madison to like help fix it, and then I think he actually did kind of fix it. And then he tore his ACL or whatever it was.
Yep.
Government by and for the people. National Voter Registration Day is coming up on September 16th, with nationwide events to encourage eligible voters to register and check their registration. With no national election as incentive this year, organizers point to local and special elections and a readiness to vote in the 2026 midterms as reasons to consider registering or reviewing registration status. The U.S. Census estimates 174 million Americans were registered to vote in 2024 out of an eligible voting age population of 236 million citizens. Pew Research found 18% of non-voters cited not being registered as a major reason for not voting. For those who are registered, changes in election law, such as more frequent purges of inactive voter registrations and lack of citizenship documents on file, could potentially make millions of Americans ineligible prior to the 2026 midterms. Many states offer online tools to check registration status. National Voter Registration Day's organizers said in a statement that over 1,700 community partners and 3,500 local organizations will participate this year, including municipalities, schools, and support agencies. More information for interested community partners is available at nationalvoterregistrationday.org. We have links to the site and our past series on why more Americans don't vote at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org.
I've got some interesting news for you today on this Wednesday morning as we close in on 6:23. We have our new newsletter editor starting today. That's right. Ellie Bordeaux is the new newsletter editor for Up North News. Born and raised in Oconomowoc and has called Wisconsin home her whole life, and introduces herself in our daily newsletter today. And then, of course, has all the usual great Wisconsin features and news stories, including a note here about Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley announcing that he's running for governor, and he will be joining us at 8:52 this morning. So get to know Ellie by signing up for our newsletter over at upnorthnewswi.com. Up North News is part of Courier Newsroom. Courier has outlets in several states, newsletters, podcasts, and more. One of those newsletters by Melissa Ryan is called Control Alt Right Delete. It's a weekly newsletter devoted to covering the rise of far-right extremism, white nationalism, disinformation, and online toxicity. And in this week's edition, Epstein survivors speak out, and they've got the receipts. Donald Trump's continued efforts to kill the public outrage about the Epstein scandal are not working. It is one of the rare issues that the vast majority of Americans can agree on. Don't obstruct those victims who are seeking justice. These women aren't going away, and the price of ignoring them is the ongoing speculation about just what is it that some powerful men are trying so hard to keep covered up. Read all about it in Control Alt Right Delete from Melissa Ryan. Head over to couriernewsroom.com to learn more. You want an example of that denial? Give a listen to what Congressman Derek Van Orden said. This is a clip from Fox News that somebody grabbed off of Twitter and put the clip up. And he was asked about the newly released birthday card that was made for Jeffrey Epstein many years ago, including a signed note by Donald Trump. with essentially a crude drawing of a woman on it. And Derek Van Orden, who is apparently a handwriting expert, had this to say about it.
Well, clearly the birthday note from President Trump is a fallacy. It's just not true. And that's a leftist talking point. It's horrible.
It's a fallacy and it's a leftist talking point. No, it's evidence is what that is. He's babbling, and you could see it in the clip. He's babbling. He's struggling. Everybody else who's working so hard to defend Donald Trump is doing this. And I mean, to call this thing a fake, keep in mind, this particular birthday card, this note, has been seen for years and years and years, long before Donald Trump got into politics. It was out there. So for you to believe it was fake would be a grand conspiracy to go back 20 years and say, let's create this fake note because 20 years later, this guy's going to get elected president. And then we're going to nail him with this. I mean, I don't like using the S word, but this isn't ridiculous. It's stupid. It's stupid to believe and to defend that. Don't knee-jerk defend something like this. You should be asking questions, and you should be saying those questions deserve answers. But Derek Van Orden, like so many other people, Derek is convinced that Donald Trump has control over all just the right people. Why? Well, why wouldn't he believe that? Look how long Trump has lasted, even after being convicted on 34 felonies. The way somebody put it in Twitter world here, when you're in a cult, nothing matters more than protecting the leader. Why? Because your entire sense of self-worth and your entire worldview are predicated on the leader's success. If he goes down, you have nothing left, and that's what makes them so dangerous. Oh, but wait, there's more. Derek Van Orden loves his scrolling and trolling on social media. So it was very interesting that he commented on a post, but not some recent post. Somehow or another, he'd gone back 2 years at the Democratic Party of Wisconsin site and found a post from July 28th of 2023 with a photo of Derek Van Orden on the U.S. Capitol grounds on January 6th, 2021. The post from July of 2023 is in the wake of Derek Van Orden harassing those teenage pages at the U.S. Capitol. Remember, late at night as they were in the Capitol Rotunda, and the State Democratic Party Post put up the photo of Derek Van Orden from January 6th, saying, let's not let anyone forget that Derek Van Orden crossed police lines taking selfies as a violent mob attacked the U.S. Capitol. All right. So again, that post was from July of 2023. But on Monday evening at 8:50 p.m., Derek Van Orden put a comment under that. And the comment read, hell yes. Thank you for pointing out that I stand for voter integrity and respect our institutions. To which the Democratic Party of Wisconsin quickly responded to his post with this, saying, did you really spend your Monday night scrolling back through over 2 years of Facebook posts to brag about a violent attack on law enforcement and an attempt to overturn the 2020 election? Because that's exactly what it looks like. That this is somebody who will constantly search for himself on social media. The kind of guy who Googles himself and will go to every platform to see who's writing what about him and then respond to it. And he does that. He's in the comment sections everywhere, taking people down a notch for daring to criticize their member of Congress, who we expect to be better behaved. But when it starts by being on the Capitol grounds as a treasonous mob is around you, well, how could we set our sights much lower? Hey, where else can you find Guns N' Roses and Chuck Berry? Well, that'd be today's history lesson. That's coming up live from the lake after the Midwest Farm Report here on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow.
Join the family. Civic Media has a number of great jobs across the state. Open now at civicmedia.us/careers.
Well, you've laid eyes on the crop you've got. You see the weather around you, and you see the markets. I'm PM Yankee, starting you off before the opening bell on a Wednesday morning. Quick look at what's happening in agribusiness news. Now you need to come up with a strategy, and we've got suggestions.
At the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, they know your business has always been something special. Now you can let customers know it too, in an instant, with the red and yellow Something Special from Wisconsin sticker. Joining the program gives you access to supplier and distribution information, marketing support, and a community of like-minded Wisconsin businesses. Best of all, you'll let people know that your work is done with care, quality, and love. You've always been something special. Visit somethingspecialfromwisconsin.com to make it official.
Dairy pumps that were designed more than 50 years ago do not meet today's large dairy farm requirements. Bopeller pumps by McFinn Technologies were born and patented this century with a unique and innovative design that ensures gentle, low-shear pumping along with efficient, high capacity and long seal life. Bopeller pumps for all your applications will ensure your dairy is operating with 21st century technology. Bopeller is American innovation. Contact your dealer today.
John Heinberg, market advisor with Total Farm Marketing out of West Bend, says use the tools that are available to you. He says there's a lot of mechanisms in the marketplace that may help protect your downside in this market and still allow you to find a little up.
You know, the biggest thing is I think guys are going to need some cash flow, and that's going to be a problem. Obviously, just from talking to people, money's getting tight, and that's understandable with the cost of production and getting ready for next year's inputs already too. You know, so there's a couple different routes to do this. If you do go with the storage route, we've had a nice little rally. Make sure we put a little bit of a floor underneath that so you got those prices locked in longer term using put strategies. Otherwise, if you are making sales, I'm a strong recommendation this year, just keeping some paper over top on calls. Keep it simple, keep it cheap, something that's easy to explain to keep yourself at least available to the upside in the market.
John Heinberg, market advisor with Total Farm Marketing out of West Bend. Right now, an overnight electronic trade. I've got December corn down a penny at $4.19. March corn down a penny at $4.36. Currently, November soybeans are down 3 at $10.28. December wheat's up a penny at $5.22. July new crop wheat up a penny at $5.59. Yesterday in Chicago, the barrel cheese dropped 2 cents down to $1.68. 40-pound block cheese 3 cents lower at $1.66.5. The butter was down 2 as well, $2.50 per pound on the butter. The October class 3 milk that goes into cheese up a penny right now, $16.93 a hundredweight. November currently up 4. There's your quick market update as we roll our way into a Wednesday. More at MidwestFarmReport.com anytime you want to check in on the news influencing your markets. I am Farm Director Pam Yankee.
Download the Civic Media app in the Google Play or Apple App Store and take us everywhere. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Borbans. Maybe a few sprinkles in the morning. Otherwise, partly sunny skies can be expected. Another nice September day with highs in the mid-70s. Partly cloudy skies expected tonight with lows in the mid-50s. A bit summery on Thursday. Plenty of sunshine with highs near 80 degrees. Currently, it's 55 degrees.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Amicus, a law review with Jim Santel.
Louisiana versus Calais, Callais, could deal a death blow to the impact, the power, the capacity of the Supreme Court to decide Voting Rights Act cases. This is one of those times when the Supreme Court needs to hear from the
Play your air drums. Yeah, we know that one. That's Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit, released as a single this day in 1991. And I think I did this to poor Greg last year as well, because everybody loves the way those drums come in so much. Do you mind stopping and starting that one again?
Really?
Yeah, can you do that?
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know people love the air drums on this.
I do. Yeah. All right, everybody.
Here we go.
1, 2, 3.
I firmly believe that people would wake up better if they did that first thing in the morning, if that's what your alarm was.
I would have woken up on time, yeah.
You would have, absolutely. So that from Nirvana was released as a single this day in 1991, kicking off today's history lesson. We have an anniversary to celebrate out of Green Bay. Fox 11, WLUK, began broadcasting this day in 1954. So happy 71st birthday to the folks at Fox 11. At least I think they're still called Fox 11. I haven't been over at my for a while. So
may or may not have a friend that works there. I don't remember.
Okay. We have a few iconic song intros here, not just Nirvana. It's always a tough one to go whether with that one or Guns N' Roses, but they're on the calendar because they opened up as the opening act for Aerosmith this week in 1988, and they hit number 1 with this. I didn't want to step on anybody doing air guitar. Today's just basically, it's an air band day is what it is.
A very fun history lesson.
Yeah. Guitar Hero. Did you play that much?
No,
it was all the rage. I didn't. I knew I wouldn't be able to, but I always enjoyed watching other people trying to learn it.
Yes.
Emphasis on trying.
Emphasis on trying. Yes. We had at Whitewater, our radio station did a music festival. And one of the things that we did was we had air guitar like between bands.
Oh, sure.
Or not air guitar, Guitar Hero.
Uh-huh.
And people went crazy on that thing. There are people who know how to play.
Oh, no doubt. I will say we did try it once. We were at a house party or something, and somebody had it, and so everybody had to give it a try. So nothing like making a fool of yourself in front of all of your friends, but we all took a turn, so it's okay. This week in 1991, the Senate Judiciary Committee began hearings on Clarence Thomas's nomination to the U.S. Supreme Court. Bad judgment 34 years ago this week. Let's see. On this day in 1955, Chuck Berry reached number 5 on the charts with his very first hit.
Maybelline, why can't you be true? Oh, Maybelline, why can't you be true? You just started doing the thing you used to do.
So why did Maybelline reach its peak at number 5 on the charts? Well, let's see. Who had the 4 spots ahead of him? Pat Boone, again, Mitch Miller, the McGuire sisters, and Tennessee Ernie Ford, who, again, I remind people, played at my high school prom.
What?
I've told you that story. Tennessee Ernie Ford and Florence Henderson were the entertainment at our high school prom.
That's crazy. You had someone notable at your prom. Wow.
Well, they weren't really at our prom. Our prom was at the old Carlton Celebrity Dinner Theater, and we were in one of the other rooms. But you had to come in. You had to come into the dinner theater to get your dinner, and sit there and eat your dinner, watching Florence Henderson and Tennessee Ernie Ford sing old songs. And then you go back down the hall, and we had some kind of a punk band or something for our actual prom.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
It makes much more sense now. Yes. Happy birthday to Jose Feliciano. You know him for the Christmas classic Feliz Navidad, but he had plenty of other hits in his years. He turns 80 years old today. This is just another great intro.
I don't think I've ever heard this. This is really good.
I suppose you might have only heard the Doors singing Light My Fire. But give a listen as he picks this up.
You know that it would be untrue. You know that I would be a liar.
Just a really nice hit from Jose Feliciano, who turns 80 years old today. Aerosmith's lead guitarist, Joe Perry, today is his 75th birthday. I wonder if he can still play, the way that he has all these years. Because, like I said, I was watching the band Chicago. Now, they were all playing their horns and keyboards as well as they ever did. So I haven't heard Joe Perry lately, so I couldn't say that with any certainty. Actor Colin Firth is 65 years old today. All right, let's get to 1966. I got the #1 album and the #1 single from this day 59 years ago, excuse me. The #1 album was Revolver from the Beatles. Another iconic intro.
Look at all the lovely people. Eleanor Rigby.
I mean, if you're going to highlight Revolver, where do you go? You got Eleanor Rigby, you've got Taxman, you've got Here, There, and Everywhere, you've got Good Day, Sunshine, you've got to Get You Into My Life. It's just definitely my favorite Beatles album.
Yeah,
although that's saying something because there were a lot of good ones on either side of that as well. But Revolver was the #1 album this week in 1966. The #1 single was by the Supremes, where it would stay #1 on the singles chart for 2 weeks. Another big intro.
I need love to ease my mind. I need to find.
We could have condensed this entire segment into like 90 seconds just by playing those intros all back
Pretty
to back.
Yeah. What I'm hearing, Pat, is that to make this show really like award-winning material that sweeps everything, is we just need a better intro. We need an iconic intro.
We need an iconic intro.
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. That's what I'm hearing from this.
We'll get to work on that. I actually might have one. I've been saving this for a while. There is a band based out of Eau Claire called the Jaggernauts.
Yeah.
I knew of them, but not much, and I thought the band had broken up. It turns out that years and years ago, on one of their albums is a song, and the title of the song is simply Kreitlow.
Yeah.
And it's got a great intro. The lyrics are a little dark, as are many things from the band. And I've never really found out why they gave it that name. Were they knocking me for some reason? Because I think I was still doing TV at the time, or what? And one of these days, I'm going to ask for their permission to use that for the show intro.
I was going to say, do we have form of contact for them? Because I would love to get that.
Like I said, I thought they broke
bring them on the show.
They just got back together, and I think they're going to be playing in Madison this week.
Really?
Yeah, they played in Eau Claire last Friday at the Mousetrap. So they do still get back together. So let's if they come down to Madison, somebody ask them if the song would work or not. Hey, Melissa Kay is here from WFHR, WIRI in beautiful Wisconsin Rapids, looking wonderful in a colorful shirt and a nice little, what kind of cap do we call those?
Page boy? I don't know.
Page boy, engineer's cap, whatever. Very nice. How are you today?
Good morning. I am here. I'm here. Yes. Hello.
Well, it's nice. Okay. Nice. See, you sound like Parker, who woke up really late today and got in just under the wire. So we totally understand. How are things in Rapids this week?
They're good.
Okay. I know we've got some new faces at Civic Media. I'm sure you're busy getting to know them, train them, things like that.
Yes, we have a new reporter in our Wausau station, which is right next door to us, Isabella Nieto.
Okay. It'll be good to welcome her. And I know there's at least one other new reporter.
Yes, Connie in Green Bay. I don't know her last name yet.
Yes. On that. Gotcha. So yeah, it'll keep somebody busy. That's for sure. All right. Back to the history lesson here. On this day in 1953, Swanson sold its first TV dinner. a turkey meal with cornbread dressing, peas, and sweet potatoes. Now, there are a lot of frozen dinners out there nowadays. I mean, there's no shortage of things, but the original TV dinner in the foil packaging, that had to have come and gone by the time. I mean, have either one of you had like an old school TV dinner?
Yes.
You
Yes,
have, Melissa.
it was like a special treat.
Oh, yes.
We only got them like once in a really great while because they were far more expensive than
They were.
making in your own food.
Wait,
yes.
they were good?
They used to be.
They were. Yeah, I can't vouch for them nowadays, but you would, as a kid, you'd only get turkey on Thanksgiving. And so to get this sliced turkey in gravy, or of course there was the Salisbury steak, which
Salisbury steak was my favorite.
I'm still not sure what makes it Salisbury. I've never looked into what exactly is it that makes
that's where they made it.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway, so the TV dinners were kind of a big deal for the baby boomers, as they were all watching their TV and wanted to eat in front of the TV. So again, that dates back to 1953.
Yeah. Not
Alex,
as much fast food then.
yes, Alex Trebek hosted the first episode of Jeopardy as a syndicated game show on this day in 1984. And I knew Alex Trebek at that point had been a game show host on multiple different game shows, but within years there were basically only two game shows left: Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, and he had one of them there. Yep. And let's see, we've got another TV debut. This one, a show that debuted on NBC this day in 1990, 35 years ago today.
Now this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. I'll tell you how I became the prince of a town called Bel Air.
There you go. Apparently he was just playing some basketball in West Philadelphia, born and raised. Were you either one of you viewers of The Fresh Prince back in the day?
I got to see it a little bit, but we weren't really allowed to watch TV. So
yes, I know that really has gotten in the way of us bouncing cultural references off of each other. And,
I know.
And Parker, the show
me a little.
Yeah, the show predates you, so I don't know if you've ever seen reruns of it or anything like that.
No, I watched a
Will
bit
Smith?
of Full House, but not Fresh
Okay.
Prince. No.
Gotcha. Okay. So did either one of you see like the more dramatic, darker version that came out? What was it, a year or two ago on Netflix? Was it?
Oh no.
Oh, I heard it. No, I didn't see it.
Though. Yeah, kind of like.
Dark?
Oh yeah, quite dark and dramatic. Kind of like what Riverdale did to the Archie comics. But anyway, let's check in with everybody's favorite pigeon. How's Lilu doing this week?
Well, we had a disrupted night, hence the hat.
Uh-oh.
But not their fault. I'm still fighting with the bed that I cut in half with a bread knife. So I didn't tell you that story.
No.
Oh.
And you got all the 20 seconds. What can you tell us?
Yeah, well, sometimes when you have a foam mattress that's just too squishy, you have to make it less squishy. So you cut in half with a bread knife.
That's a DIY hack I did not know about, and
okay,
we will definitely explore that another time. Melissa Kay, you can catch her on WFHR out of Wisconsin Rapids. Listen through the Civic Media app. Melissa, thank you so much. Good to see you.
You too.
All right, have a great day. Let's pause here, and then in the 7 o'clock hour, we'll talk about transparency for taxpayers on voucher schools. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Kingdom, I was finally there to sit on my throne as the Prince of Bel Air.
Doobity-doo. All right. That's good to see you. How's the so you're just doing training and stuff.
Transitioning, yeah. I'll just put it
Transitioning
that way.
Yep. I hear you.
It's a process, as you
Yep.
know. Change is hard.
Are you good doing one more week? Because you want to do
Yeah.
next week and then call it good?
Yep.
Okay. We got to come up with a story arc here. So we'll come up with that way. Like we'll leave it with like we need a cliffhanger so that people who don't know when you'll be back and when you are, there'll be this big reveal. So we've got to get the wheels turning, and eventually it will become a play that you will direct for the theater there.
Nice. I
Wisconsin Rapids.
love it.
All right. Think it over. I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
All right. Have a good
Okay.
day, guys.
Bye.
Yeah, Melissa. Do you want those two clips, or are we gonna
Yes,
dump those?
yes, no,
Yes.
definitely, yep.
Okay.
Granger, for the ones who get it done.
My name is Chuck Collins. I'm the great-grandson of the meatpacker Oscar Mayer and a member of the Patriotic Millionaires, a collection of wealthy Americans who share a profound concern about the dangers of concentrated wealth and power in America. Now, the fact is, you may not care how much money another person has, but you likely do care how much power another person has, especially if they're using that power to rig the rules of the economy to make themselves richer and you poorer. You see, there is a point where money is no longer money, it's power. And when rich people use their money to drown out the voices of everyday people, it threatens the safety and security of us all. Patriotic millionaires don't want to live in a country with a few extremely rich people controlling everything, leaving millions of people struggling to just get by. Luckily, we have a solution. Tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. I'm Chuck Collins. I'm a patriotic millionaire, and I approve this message.
America is kept safe because the Army National Guard responds, protects, and supports our nation when it needs them most. From fighting wildfires with air support, helping civilians in flooded neighborhoods, to delivering food and supplies to those who have lost everything, the Army National Guard always responds when disaster strikes. The Army National Guard also trains to be ever vigilant against threats, foreign and domestic. They protect our skies with missile defense weaponry. They secure our information, communications, and infrastructure with cybersecurity. And they protect us against chemical, biological, and radiological hazards with the civilian support team. The Army National Guard also stands ready to deploy and
Coming up later today on the Civic Media Radio Network, Matt and Air on Air follows this program 9 to 11 weekdays. Greg Bach is flying solo this week while Jane's off. And coming up at 9:35, Greg will be talking to Andra Watkins, New York Times bestselling author, discussing Christian nationalism in the United States. And then after 10 o'clock, economics professor Rick Reed will talk about the way that President Trump is putting pressure on the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. And for whatever reason, Todd Alba, whose show is on from 2 to 4 today, keeps insisting on having me on Wednesday afternoons. And so you can catch me just after 2 o'clock along with Trygve Olsen from the Lincoln Project on the Todd Alba Show coming up this afternoon across the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, a few more notes from today's history lesson. And, you know, they're not all happy, fun, music-based or whatever, entertainment-based. There are occasional serious notes to put in there. And so the reason I'm sharing one about something called the Latimer Massacre, the Latimer Massacre of 1897 is to show the ways that we are still trying to evolve in this country and live truer to our ideals. But on this day in 1897 in Latimer, Pennsylvania, a sheriff's posse killed 19 unarmed striking immigrant miners. It was an outrage that single-handedly propelled the United Mine Workers Union in membership and in power, eventually leading to higher wages and safer conditions. But sadly, it just far too often takes tragedies like this to convince corporations to do better by their workers. So again, that massacre of striking immigrant miners in Pennsylvania took place this day in 1897. All right, a couple of sports notes for you now. And I'm going to admit, Parker, that I did not know this until yesterday. If you'd have told me the origin of the Rams, I would have said, well, they were the Los Angeles Rams, and then they were the St. Louis Rams for a while, and now they're the Los Angeles Rams again, right? Yeah. And they actually started someplace else. Did not know that, but it was on this day in 1937 that the Cleveland Rams played their first game as an NFL team. The Rams played in Cleveland from 1936 to 1937 to 1945. Now, in 1945, the Cleveland Rams won the NFL championship and then moved to Los Angeles, becoming the first of only 2 professional football teams to play the following season in another city.
And forever ruining football in Cleveland.
Yeah, forever. Yeah, exactly. and for folks who are saying, wait, there's another football champion team that left the city. Yeah, this was in the old AFL, which is now the AFC conference in the NFL. But at the time in 1962, the Dallas Texans, the 1962 version, had won the AFL championship, but they really couldn't compete with the NFL's Dallas Cowboys. And so the Dallas Texans relocated to Kansas City and rebranded themselves as the Kansas City Chiefs and have been there for good. So there's your sports trivia for the day. For folks who don't know why Deion Sanders is such a name, how did he get to be such a thing? Is it just because he's a loudmouth and brash and everything else? The fact of the matter is he got to where he was because he was a hell of an athlete. And it was on this day in 1989 as a two-way player. 5 days after hitting a home run for the Yankees, he returned a punt 68 yards for a touchdown. So home run and a touchdown in the same week for Deion Sanders.
That's such a funny stat.
The guy was good.
Yeah.
He
I really
was.
wish I got to see that, actually.
He again, he loved to tell you that he was good.
Yeah,
but
he kind of earned it, though.
Yeah, he did have the goods to back it up. Let's see. On this day in 2019, Donald Trump fired his national security advisor, John Bolton. There's some foreshadowing for you. And then finally, 1 year ago today, was the presidential debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. It became famous for various phrases of Trump's. For example, here he is acknowledging that he still has no plan to replace the Affordable Care Act.
Just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Narrator, we are now in the not too distant future, and we're still hearing nothing. It was in that same debate where there had been some racial unrest in Ohio and where Donald Trump famously blurted out this bit of, verbal diarrhea. Hit it.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
You can hear the laughter in the background of that. I mean, of probably camera operators and others that could not believe that this was being said by a former president and that he might actually have a chance to become president again. And then he did, still with concepts of a plan. So we got that going for us. All told, by the way, fact checkers found more than 30 different lies or misstatements from Donald Trump in that debate. On the National Day calendar for today is National TV Dinner Day. Of course, we mentioned what Swanson's did in 1953. So why not celebrate and have some dinner in front of the TV today? Oh, wait, we pretty much all do now, all the time, don't we? And this is also Anti-Junk Light Day. And if you've ever flown at night, you understand what we're talking about here, where there's a lot of junk light that keeps people from seeing the stars, from enjoying the night sky. And there's really been a movement for years to get people to make sure their outdoor lighting at night is more directional and, allow us to enjoy what the celestial masterpieces that we have up above us. Coming up at 7:07, meteorologist Brittany Merlot is going to talk about the return of summer weather. We'll talk about voucher transparency in our next hour. And at 8:52, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, candidate for governor. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
A Civic Media Station.
ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. Polish and NATO air defense is scrambling overnight as it appears Russia sent drones into Poland's airspace. They were shot down with the help of NATO forces. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio says many European leaders think it's Russia's attempt at escalating the war in Ukraine. At the foreign desk, here's ABC's Tom Sufi Burridge.
Top officials here in Europe calling this the biggest violation of NATO airspace by Russia since the war in Ukraine began. And for the first time, Poland, the key NATO ally of the US, shooting down Russian drones breaching its airspace, calling some of those drones a direct threat.
Israel is condemning the comments made by the president of the European Commission earlier today about suspending all payments to Israel over the country's conduct in Gaza, describing them as regrettable. Hamas says only low-level leaders were killed in Israel's targeted attack on Hamas headquarters in Doha. And a federal court ruling Fed Governor Lisa Cook can remain in her position while she fights President Trump's firings. This is ABC News.
Local news, weather, and sports on air and streaming on the Civic Media app. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Families at Madison West High School say students with disabilities were unfairly cut from the swim team. Asha Shukla is a senior at Madison West High School. She has Down syndrome. She's been on the swim team for 2 years as an exhibition swimmer. That means because of her disabilities, she's a member of the team, just with some modifications. She has a reduced practice schedule and doesn't score points for the team when they compete. This year, the program has grown and multiple swimmers were cut from the team, including Asha. Her parents say school officials told them Asha would have to try out for a spot with no accommodations for her disability. Supporters flooded a school board meeting Monday night for a chance to talk directly to school board members. Here's part of what Asha herself had to say.
I am fast. I hold all city records and pool records across Madison. Being part of a team makes me feel like I am part of something bigger than me, a community.
The families say another student with disabilities was excluded too. Aurelia Bergstrom is a freshman at West this year. Her dad, Charlie Bergstrom.
There's a silent, nefarious message being sent to all kids that those with disabilities are less than, potentially reversing all the work that the district, the staff at West in particular, that Coach Elmaker has done to foster a culture that's actually in line with the stated goals of the district.
A spokesperson for the district released a statement to multiple outlets saying, quote, "The Madison Metropolitan School District is deeply committed to ensuring that all students have access to safe, inclusive, and welcoming opportunities in our schools. We understand the importance of athletics and co-curricular programs to the educational experience and encourage involvement to the greatest extent possible," end quote. The families are asking the district to reverse course and let the girls back on the team. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson, 92.7 WMDX News.
It's the Brewers and the Rangers. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Baseball this afternoon, where the Rangers host the Brewers to wrap up their 3-game series in Arlington, Texas. The Rangers winning again last night, 5-4, thanks to another great performance by their rookie center fielder, Michael Hellman. Brewers manager Pat Murphy.
Take your hat off to Texas. They made great defensive plays. I mean, kid in center field, I think he changed the game. Runs down Durbin's ball and then robs a home run from Terang.
NFL, the Packers signed Christian Watson to a 1-year extension worth over $13 million. They host the Washington Commanders tomorrow night. College football, the Badgers play at number 19th ranked Alabama for the first time ever this Saturday. Wisconsin has not beat a ranked team on the road in 4 years.
We hear the noise. We try and block it out as much as we can, but we hear it. So just being able to go out there and prove ourselves right. We work just as hard as anyone else, if not harder, and we're excited for our opportunity to show that.
That's Badgers quarterback Danny O'Neill with Sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
Come work with us. Civic Media has a number of great jobs across the state. Open now at civicmedia.us/careers.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Borbans. Maybe a few sprinkles in the morning. Otherwise, partly sunny skies can be expected. Another nice September day with highs in the mid-70s. Partly cloudy skies expected tonight with lows in the mid-50s. A bit summery on Thursday, plenty of sunshine with highs near 80 degrees. Currently, it's 55 degrees.
Shop Furlough Mattress during our Labor Day sale. It's our biggest sale of the season. Get a free box spring with a mattress purchase or upgrade to an adjustable base and save even more. At Furlough, every mattress we make is factory direct and custom made locally for you. And it's backed by our lifetime comfort guarantee. Don't fall for the other guy's mattress gimmicks. Furlough has no middleman, so you'll get the comfort you want and save a whole lot of money. American made, locally crafted. Furlough.
This is Robert Pilot, host of Native Roots Radio. On our show, we talk about Native issues like treaties, protecting Mother Earth, and holding our elected officials accountable. You'll also hear from Turtle Island voices like Arvina Martin, State Representative Heather Keeler, Ruth Anna Buffalo, Dr. Anthony Stately, State Senator Mary Kunish, Robert Lilligren, and Bob Blake.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Good morning, 706. Nice to have you back here up north on this Wednesday morning, September 10th, 2025. Parker Olson producing things down in Madison Studio A2. Meteorologist Brittany Merlot will be along shortly. And later this hour, we will be talking about a new campaign to help taxpayers across Wisconsin understand just how much money the private school voucher scheme is costing them. Money coming out of their wallets, money that is leaving our neighborhood local schools and going to this private school voucher plan instead. So again, that's coming up less than a half hour from now. And then at 8:52, before we wrap things up here for the morning, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley will be dropping in to talk about his joining the race for governor. He's made it official. He and Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez, among others, will be seeking the Democratic nomination for governor in August of next year and running for governor next November. So David Crowley will talk about what propelled him to decide to join the race for Wisconsin governor. Again, that's coming up a little bit before 9 o'clock before we wrap things up for today. But we are still getting going just here on the 7 o'clock hour, starting with the weather and the return of summer, says meteorologist Brittany Merlot. And I, for one, am here for it. I can't wait. I'm so looking forward to one last weekend of boating before we put things away for the weekend. I'm sure other people who've made outdoor plans are almost giddy with the thought that things at the moment are looking pretty good.
Yes, they are, honestly. Today starting off damp and dreary, but good things ahead. Warm weekend, 80-degree temperatures. Like you said, summer is coming back and it's falling on the weekend, so it couldn't be any better. This morning, we do though have thick fog up northwest. We are looking at a dense fog advisory from Ashland to Eau Claire, and then northwest into Hayward and Superior. Even Eagle River has less than a mile visibility right now. And then middle of the state, we're looking at scattered showers from Madison to Wausau, all the way over to Iron River. Those are going to be working their way into the Fox Valley later this morning. Maybe a sprinkle or two until Milwaukee by this afternoon, but nothing heavy. All the heavy rain fell yesterday. We're a good half an inch to an inch and a half up northwest, where all that fog is sitting now. So more clouds north today. Few sunspots down south before the system moves through. High temperatures will reach the upper 60s up north to the low 70s down south today. And we are looking at more fog pushing in overnight tonight. Now tomorrow starts the warm up. Low to mid 70s statewide. Far south, we could hit some 80s. It'll be a partly sunny day, very comfortable out there. And then the mugginess starts to seep in for Friday. You'll start to feel like summer again. It'll be partly sunny, much warmer. Highs will be in the mid to upper 70s far north to low 80s south. And then Saturday and Sunday, we're all hitting 80 to 85 degrees. We do have chances for scattered rain in the morning on Saturday and then maybe late Sunday night. But otherwise, it looks rather dry for the entire weekend and warm too.
That is such good news for people who are planning all sorts of activities this weekend, which I'm going to tell you about in just a moment. But first, I just wanted to pass along a good morning from Rob in Tigerton. Cloudy, a few rain showers, 58 degrees. Did some work around the home and fixed the tire on his John Deere mower. He says it's been fun working with Kristen Lyerly about cuts for people with disabilities and fighting back against wanting to put disabled people in institutions or in nursing homes. He writes places north of Iron Mountain in the UP got over 3 inches of rain and says the leaves are starting to change color in the Tigerton area. Oh, and from Tony, one little request for Brittany. Could you not make it summer again? No, Tony, I'm sorry. I hit the delete button way too fast on that
Right?
comment. I'm so sorry.
Control-Alt-Delete.
Exactly. So this weekend, and the thing is with the Packers playing tomorrow night,
that's right.
there's no Packer game over the weekend. So good weather, get to enjoy one of these things. So Parker, guessing game for you. Brittany is starting a long weekend tomorrow. Let's see if we can guess. No spoiler alerts. Here are some options for her. There's the Vernon County Fair, which starts today in Viroqua. There's the Amory Fall Festival that begins tomorrow. There's the Lake Geneva Taco Fest going on Friday and Saturday. Yep. There's Blues Fest in Thiensville, Saturday and Sunday. Saturday and Sunday is also the Waupun Volksfest German Festival. On Sunday is the 12th annual Beaver Dam Pepper Festival. Also on Sunday is the Eau Claire Fall Festival. Sunday is also the Stevens Point Celebration of India over at Spash, the local high school. Lakewood has its Festifall. Get it? Like festival. See what they did there? Yeah, that's on Sunday. As is New London Fall Fest, the Hayward Lions Oktoberfest, and the Mineral Point Car Show. All of these things. Oh, wait, one more from Rob here. Says Tigerton Steak Fry Saturday night. So there you go. So I don't know which of these you're going to here, but you won't lack for possibilities for things to do this weekend.
No, not at all. Sounds like a good long weekend to take off. My gosh, I have options.
I know. So we're going to want to hear all about those when you're back next week, but we will get an updated forecast next hour as well. Brittany, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, we have a new newsletter editor at Up North News who has put together her first edition. Her name is Ellie Bordeaux, and we're going to let her get her feet wet a little bit before we initiate her here on the radio. We can only do so much hazing at Up North News, but Ellie is an Economowoc native, has been in Wisconsin her whole life, and is looking forward, as she says here, to talking about Wisconsin's true sense of community, where people take pride in their roots. She's got a photo of her and her dad at Lambeau Field at a Packer game here. She went to UW-Madison, has degrees in journalism and Spanish, wrote for the Daily Cardinal, and discovered a passion for giving people a platform to share their stories. And so, again, Ellie, I believe only the fourth newsletter editor we've had with Up North News over these past 5.5 years. Yours truly, and then there was Christina, and then there was Henry, and now there is Ellie. So give her a welcome by becoming a subscriber. Head over to upnorthnewswi.com, click subscribe up there in the top banner, and you will be part of the weekday newsletter that she works on, as well as the Sunday morning newsletter that I put together, Sunday Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, which includes a question of the week. And this time around, the question is, what caused Donald Trump's flip-flop on the Epstein files? Is it that it turns out his name is in the files? That much we know. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, told Trump as much, but we have no idea in what context, whether it involves wrongdoing, whether it involves cover-ups, whether it's all, I don't know if innocent is the right word, but does not involve criminal activity. Maybe that's what it is. Or maybe he's not releasing the files fully because he's covering up and protecting people who are listed. Or, to be a bit more sinister about it, maybe not protecting people, but maybe blackmailing people that are in the file and saying, I'll keep these files secret if you continue to do the things that I want you to do. And then the fourth option, of course, is that it's all a hoax, and that for 20 plus years, all of these victims of Jeffrey Epstein decided all those years ago to make things up because someday Donald Trump was going to be elected president. Like anybody would have believed that 20 years ago. And that way we'll be able to get him when the time is right. I mean, it seems to be what Congressman Derek Van Orden is thinking, because asked yesterday about the crude birthday note that Donald Trump signed to Jeffrey Epstein about 20 years ago. Derek Van Orden called it a fallacy. It's not a fallacy. And so you have Derek Van Orden and every other Wisconsin Republican in Congress has voted to basically stonewall the release of all of the Epstein files. All 6 of Wisconsin's Republican congressmen have voted to not seek justice for the Epstein victims in a way that would be faster than continuing to sit on these files for no good reason whatsoever. There are plenty of Republicans who have voted for or expressed support for getting on with this and not worrying about political protection. But you can't say the same for Wisconsin's 6 Republican House members. And so again, these are stories that we are following, including our question of the week at our news, and get our newsletter, our Sunday morning one, by heading to upnorthnewswi.com. Checking in on sports here, the Brewers lost to the Texas Rangers last night, 5-4. Remember, they had lost 5-0 the night before, and that was when Texas's Michael Hellman, who has only been with the team since May 19th, when he was picked up on waivers by Pittsburgh, hit his first ever grand slam and had 5 RBIs total on Monday. Well, last night, he hit a 2-run homer and made a leaping backhanded catch over the fence in left center field to rob Bryce Terang. And that again led to the Brewers losing 5-4. They will wrap up that 3-game series this afternoon. Freddie Peralta will be on the mound, going for what would be a league-leading 17th win if he were to get it in Arlington this afternoon. Coverage begins at 1 o'clock on Civic Media stations in Richland Center, Oshkosh, Racine, Park Falls, and in Hayward. The Packers are on a short week. They play tomorrow night, hosting the Washington Commanders. Coverage begins at 5 o'clock on several Civic Media stations. Christian Watson signed a 1-year, $13 million contract extension through the 2026 season, even though he is still out recovering from an ACL injury. And the Wisconsin Badgers will play this Saturday at Alabama. Coverage begins Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on stations in Richland Center, Amory, Wisconsin Rapids, and in Ripon. All right. One more football note, though. I mean, it's not football related, but it's a football guy letting us know what he thinks. Brett Favre would like you to know that spreading the message to end racism is a bad thing, and says it is divisive. The native of Kiel, Mississippi, spoke out in a story here on the Fox News website, saying that the messages such as end racism and it takes all of us, and what else was on there? Choose love. And Favre says those messages are counterproductive. He says, I feel like they're maintaining a divisive stance. They may say, well, we're trying to bring everyone together. No, that's not bringing everyone together, Favre said on the Sage Steele show earlier this week. There are a lot of things in this world, in this country, we can be better at. And I think we do continue to get better at certain things, Favre says. But you're creating more division by talking about a problem that I'm not saying it isn't still a problem, racism, but I think you could do more by not talking about it. Talk about unity and how far we've come. There are those who say, I face this all the time, and kudos to the NFL, he says, but I think most people are over and beyond that. Yeah, I feel like the league is the league of divisiveness. There might be no other way to say you're a white guy from Mississippi without saying you're a white guy from Mississippi than to say the things right there that Brett Favre just said, that he's saying, I'm not saying it is a problem, which is right up there with your uncle saying, I'm not a racist, but, and saying that I think people are over that. I think people are beyond that. They are not, which is why messages like these are more important than ever. And at some point, the people who think that something like this is divisive might finally have the epiphany that helps us make some progress in our country. We will talk about the subject of taxpayer transparency for voucher schools 15 minutes away here. I'm Pat Kreitlow, live from Lake Wissota. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Thanks, Bert. We'll never forget you, Bert.
Such an interesting fella.
Yeah.
At Madison Hearing Aid Center. They're at 4706 Cottage Grove Road. Call them and make an appointment at 608-249-4077. You can take an initial hearing test online at madisonhearingaidcenter.com. Don't let your hearing loss frustrate you anymore. They help John and Gordy hear better, and they can help you too. Madison Hearing Aid Center.
Does Donald Trump's big bill provide the largest federal spending cut in U.S. history? No. Spending cuts in the bill that Trump signed wouldn't be the largest ever, despite claims by Republican U.S. Representative Scott Fitzgerald. The original House version would have nominally cut over $1.6 trillion over 10 years. The final version cut even less, $1.2 trillion. With $4.5 trillion in tax cuts, the act will increase federal debt by a massive $3.3 trillion over the next decade. Nonpartisan analysts say the plan's cuts would rank behind a 2011 law's $2 trillion in spending cuts. As a percentage of GDP, it doesn't rank in the top 5%. I'm Trisha Young for Wisconsin Watch. Fact Briefs are bite-sized fact checks of trending claims produced by Wisconsin Watch and GigaFact. Learn more at wisconsinwatch.org.
If you love animals and want to help in Dane County, shop, donate, or volunteer at one of Dane County Humane Society's thrift stores. They sell gently used and new clothes, home goods, toys, furniture, and more. All proceeds support the comfort and care of animals in need. Dane County Humane Society thrift stores. Shop Thrift Store West on Watts Road and Thrift Store East on High Crossing Boulevard. Visit giveshelter.org/.
Up North News is part of Courier Newsroom, a pro-democracy news network, and that includes our Washington, D.C. daily newsletter, Below the Beltway. You can subscribe to Cam Stevenson's newsletter at beltway.news or couriernewsroom.com for daily dispatches from Capitol Hill. Nice to have you back here at exactly 7:23 on this Wednesday morning. Some of the big stories that have been racking up eyeballs and comments and shares across social media from Up North News include on Facebook, Chautauqua's Alan Kircher. You might recall we heard from Alan through a report from Selena Heller on Monday. Kirchner is winning awards for his ice cream from the World Dairy Expo. And he talks about what it is he does different at his little ice cream shop up in Chautauqua, which is going to only get more popular as word gets out about all of these many awards that he's winning for his chocolate peanut butter ice cream, his vanilla ice cream, and much more. Let's see, on Instagram, one of the top stories is one that includes audio from inside the courtroom as a court commissioner expresses shock and outrage that an immigration arrest is taking place in his courtroom and the officers refuse his demand to show their warrant. And somehow it's the court commissioner who ends up losing his job as a result of this. So again, a very popular post this past week on Instagram, along with one from Vice President J.D. Vance's misinformation-riddled message in La Crosse, where we take 5 of the things that the vice president said and basically set the record straight. So again, find us on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook. We're also on Blue Sky, and even the dumpster fire formerly known as Twitter. Come and follow all that we do across social media at Up North News. Let's see, we just heard a bit ago a promo from the folks at the investigative journalism site Wisconsin Watch. And, not everything is completely serious politics. Parker, there's a story that went up last week, I believe. It's called The Future of Work in Wisconsin in 6 charts. The headline, the subhead saying, what are the fastest growing jobs in Wisconsin? Which jobs are shrinking? We break down the data on nurse practitioners, data scientists, wind turbine techs, and more. Did you ever count on fastest growing jobs to determine what it was that you were going to do when you grew up as a young lad?
Let me think. No.
No, I don't either. And the thing is, that would be my advice to a lot of young people. It would be, hey, you should see, where the jobs of the future are. But I mean, a lot of us, we want to follow our hearts instead. I remember, go ahead.
There is a little something of that. Like, there were things that I wanted to learn because I thought they would be helpful because they were coming up. Like, I wanted to learn a little like computer coding stuff. I didn't do that, but I wanted to because I knew that was becoming a thing that would be important. I didn't want that career though.
Yeah, that's just it. You start to study these things and say, well, they may be fast growing, but they're not necessarily for me. I know that now the baby boomers, they start turning 80 this year. So we're going back either 20 or 30 years. And I recall back even, 50 years ago when the baby boomers started turning 30, every one of these milestone years, you'd see these articles about the future of the baby boomers when they were in their prime working years, and then about, the best retirement for baby boomers and so forth and so on. And I remember thinking, like, either 10, 20 or 30 years ago, boy, if my generation and those people younger wanted job security, get into some kind of work that takes care of these baby boomers as they're aging, because we're going to need more people who work in nursing homes, occupational therapy, mortuary, sad to say, all of the, all these things. And I joked the other day about just specializing in 80th birthday parties. You could make a pretty good income just doing that. But even 20, 30 years ago, I thought that's not where I feel myself being called is as a gerontologist, essentially. And yet that would be, a fast growing career. So getting back to the Wisconsin Watch story. Now they do start with wind turbine service technicians, and that field is projected to grow by 75% in Wisconsin between 2022 and 2032. So I think there now is to be a footnote on that, since we have a president who is actively trying to undermine wind and solar power. But by the same token, I don't think this industry is really, it's going to come back. It will survive Donald Trump. And so to be a technician on these wind turbines that'll be some job security if you can do that.
Oh yeah.
You'd have to be able to go up on a very tall structure, and that ain't happening for me.
Yeah, that's an acquired taste.
Yeah, you've got nurse practitioners projected to grow by 51%. And again, with an aging population, you would not go wrong if you wanted to become a nurse practitioner. Computer and information research scientists, the little Parker Olsons that weren't to be, that job growth is growing by 44% within this decade. And then there's data scientists projected to grow by 43%, which I'm not so sure about. Data scientists, I mean, they have been essential in the past, but you now have in Donald Trump and in Robert Kennedy and in Ron Johnson, data scientists. I mean, who are those liberal elites, with their data and their facts and their science? In other words, kids, if you want to become a data scientist, there will be jobs out there. But remember, it's more than just training your mind. It's more about training, your fingers to do all the calculations on keyboards. You also have to train your forehead. because you're constantly going to be wanting to put it against a brick wall when you hear what people in power have to say about science and data and facts. Our homeroom segment talking about school voucher transparency is coming up. The Midwest Farm Report. Before that, I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
US/careers.
Oh, this weather may be ideal for you and I in our afternoon strolls, but I'll tell you what, there are some Wisconsin crops in jeopardy. I'm Pam Yankee with a quick update on what's happening in food and farming news on a Wednesday. Details about one of those crops next.
As the weather changes, it can start to impact feed quality. Don't let your cows become the victims of the ration roller coaster. Adding Generator Elite to your herd's ration can introduce beneficial microbials that support gut health and help the herd navigate the highs and lows of feed quality, all while using less than an ounce per day per cow. Learn more about Generator Elite at bio-vet.com.
Innovation. That's BioVet.
Amy Aragoni, who is the manager of Bailey's Run Vineyard in New Glarus, is struggling with this beautiful weather. She says their early Edelweiss has already been picked, but later grapes are struggling in September because of the lack of heat.
Yeah, we're not happy about it at all. We have 5 varieties that we grow. We have one variety, Edelweiss, that ripens usually in August, really early every year. The other 4, we still need September heat to ripen that fruit. So we're in the phase right now where we're taking sugar readings pretty often, and my sugars are just sitting. They're not moving up at all because I just don't have the heat right now.
Amy Aragoni, she is the manager of Bailey's Run Vineyard in New Glarus, and she's struggling with this cool September weather. She says she oversees 6 acres and 3,000 vines. She says the longer the fruit have to remain on those vines, the more damage from things like birds, bees, and disease they could risk. Other crops around Wisconsin doing a little bit better. Those updates next.
Attention farmers and ranchers. The Can-Am Ag and Business Program wants to reward hardworking folks like you. Head to your local Can-Am dealer to find out how you can get extra coverage on top of the current offers on select Can-Am Defender and Outlander models. If you've had your eye on a new Can-Am ATV or side-by-side, now's the time to get yours. Visit your local Can-Am dealer today and add a true game changer to your roster. Conditions apply. See dealer for details.
The drier weather has allowed Wisconsin farmers to move forward with the corn silage harvest. As of Sunday, about 10% of that crop already harvested. 82% of our corn is called good to excellent. Soybeans have declined a little bit this week, about 81% called good to excellent. But this cooler weather is ideal for our Wisconsin potato crop. Right now, about 40% of our potatoes have already been dug. 89% of that crop called good to excellent. Want more farm news? Pop on over to MidwestFarmReport.com and you'll find it there. There's your food news update. I'm Pete.
Heather, how you doing?
Morning.
Good to see you. How things been?
Been busy getting back
Yeah.
to school.
Yes.
My
You got a lot-
youngest just started at UW lacrosse, so it's been a busy fall for us.
Oh,
and
man.
an exciting one.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so we'll start with when's the kickoff party? That is the 16th. Okay. got
Yeah,
it.
the 16th of this month, next week, a week from yesterday.
Okay, got it. All right, well, we should be good to go here. We'll get going in just over a minute, okay?
Sounds great.
See you in a bit.
From bandaging war-wounded patients in Sudan to providing clean drinking water in Haiti, we're in more than 70 countries worldwide, bringing patients from sick to recovering, from emergency to aid, from crisis to care. This life-saving care is made possible by a global movement of supporters like you. Thank you.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
Dan Marcus is here. One of the snacks Dan likes called Sen.
Kind of tart and sour.
The packaging is not great. I understand it's very old.
30 seconds.
Welcome back on this Wednesday morning. Time for our homeroom segment. And before we get to our guest, a little history of the homeroom segment, especially appropriate for today's topic. How did we come to do a weekly segment on public education in Wisconsin? It started with my learning just how much money our tax dollars goes into the voucher school program. And now this goes back at least a couple of years. And I originally wanted to do just a short series, maybe a short series of videos, kind of like Schoolhouse Rock, but instead of how a bill becomes a law, it was, could we find a way to explain in plain English how the school funding system works in Wisconsin? And in doing so, we would help people appreciate how we fund our public schools, but also let people know how much money is skimmed away from that from a voucher program for private, often religious schools that started as this small experimental program in Milwaukee. But with a lot of folks not knowing it, has mushroomed into something massive. And how do you go about sharing that message with folks? Well, the short video series is still a work in progress, but we did say, we need to be talking about this on a more regular basis. So along with a lot of other education topics, we started this homeroom segment along with some friends from the Wisconsin Public Education Network, who have made it their mission as well in the support of public schools is to help increase taxpayer transparency about the voucher school program. Well, they're taking this to the next level with a transparency project that the Wisconsin Public Education Network is starting with a kickoff party and free training through Zoom and a toolkit and more. It's all starting next week. And so to get back to basics on all this, Heather Dubois-Bornon from the Wisconsin Public Education Network is here today. Heather, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Pat. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. You and Chris Hambuck, well, you're basically the godmothers of this segment to help make sure that we're getting this kind of word out about supporting public schools and not undermining public schools through use of our property tax dollars, oftentimes unwittingly. And so tell us in your own words, what led to this transparency project, and then we'll get into what the transparency project is all about.
So thanks. There's a lot to unpack here, and I'm just going to start by saying that question about how do I understand this in regular plain language is probably the one we get the most.
Yes.
Most people know that Wisconsin taxpayers are subsidizing a secondary system of education that is not playing by the same set of rules. We are funding private, mostly religious schools through taxpayer-funded vouchers, and we are funding independent charter schools, which are charter schools that are not run by your district or your locally elected board. They're public schools in name, but they're independently run, and they aren't subject to the same level of scrutiny, particularly that financial scrutiny that public schools are. And so the question we get next is, well, why and how much do I find out these costs? And Pat, you're a smart guy. You used to be a state legislator. You are a reporter. You know how to dig into details. How easy do you find it to find out how much vouchers are costing in your district?
Yeah, that kind of says it all right there. Is I have been working at this as a journalist and as a state senator, and now as a radio host. And it's still hard for me to wrap my head around how we get these costs. And it, for folks who think, well, I'll just look at that line on my property tax bill, that does not tell you the whole story.
Yeah, there's no line on your property tax bill. There's
Right.
no line that you can just go to and put in, here's my district, how much are vouchers costing on the state, in the state budget or on the state DPI website. You have to dig into spreadsheets. You have to know what those spreadsheets are called. You have to search this information out yourself. And then, worst of all, you have to do your own math to add up all the different programs and see how much they're all costing. And so we have created a tool on our website, wisconsonnetwork.org, where you can go, and we're going to update this by next week when we do our party with the numbers for this year. So that's one way you can get the numbers right now. There is also a fiscal bureau memo that gives us the grand total of the price tag, which, by the way, for the next 2 years in this biennium is going to be $1,836,300. Let me start over because I'm not very good at saying numbers this big, Pat.
Yeah.
$1,836,391,400. We're approaching $2 billion in the biennium on voucher and independent charter spending. And so the question is, how much is that costing in my district? How much is that money siphoning away from the pot that's not going to my kids? Because this is one of many reasons that districts have been forced to go to referenda so much over the past 15 years. And so there are a lot of challenges facing public schools right now, and hiding those challenges is a real problem. And so we want to see more transparency, not in the service of expanding that program, but rather in the service of exposing what a scam it is and how much it is truly costing local kids, and in the hopes that more people will turn their confusion into outrage and join us in demanding that we right this wrong and restore our commitment to funding the public schools our Constitution requires us to serve.
We're talking to Heather Dubois-Bornon from the Wisconsin Public Education Network. And so now that we've set up the problem, let's talk about the new Transparency Project and the kickoff event next week. What's that all about?
Yeah. So what can people do about it? You can say, I want this on my tax bill. And people have said that around the state, in Racine, in Milwaukee, in Madison, in South Milwaukee. There are a number of communities around the state where they already have what's called a tax insert. It is a little slip of paper that comes with your tax bill that shows how much vouchers are costing taxpayers and how much is being deducted from the aid for your district to cover these unaccountable voucher schemes. What we'd like to see is a requirement that that's on your actual tax bill. It's expensive to do inserts. It's unnecessary. It's confusing. That should be a line item, the same as any other school cost, just like our public school funding, which is funded by public dollars, is exposed to taxpayers. And so the good people of Green Bay took it into their own hands to approach their city and ask for that level of transparency. And after a few months of discussion and debate and consideration, they passed it. And this fall, when those tax bills come out, they are going to show taxpayers exactly how much that program is costing and add a layer of transparency that we've never been afforded before. And I'll say this, we've tried at the state level. There have been several bills circulated asking for a state law that requires those costs to be exposed. Those bills have never seen a hearing. We hope that bill will continue to come forward and that we could solve this problem in one fell swoop at the State House. But there seems to be a real will for lack of transparency on behalf of the voucher lobby. And so I think that should speak volumes in and of itself. So we're going to give you all the tools you need to get this process started where you live. It is not as hard as it might sound. It's just a question of talking to the right people, following the right steps, and setting the wheels in motion to find folks in your community who are invested in making sure that the kids in our public schools have the resources that they need to succeed, to thrive, and to ensure that our schools are like well-equipped places of joy where we're really making sure that we're meeting the needs of every kid who walks through the door.
I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said it isn't that it's hard. It's just a matter of knowing the steps, knowing getting the resources to tap into basically a toolkit. And that's the thing that you all have put together now, because lacking a state solution because of the current legislature, this has to happen at the district by district level. So if if any one person hears this in a school district, it might sound rather daunting, but you get 2, 3, 4 people at a coffee clutch or a local meeting of some other group. It sounds like the kind of thing that this toolkit and this training would help them get some answers at the local district level.
Yeah, and who doesn't want that level of transparency and accountability? I mean, it is really basic, and we're seeing strong bipartisan support for these efforts wherever they've been introduced. Because regardless of what your feelings are about the program, we over here at Wisconsin Public Education Network are strongly opposed to programs that siphon monies away from the public schools we are required to serve. But whatever your feelings about that program, most people want transparency. They want accountability. They want to make sure that their tax dollars are being used in a way that ensures we're good stewards of our money. And there's really nothing less conservative about a taxpayer-funded voucher that's providing resources for private school students to attend the school they already attend, which has been the case for the vast majority of students. Close to 80% of kids who are in the statewide voucher program never attended a public school. So as our tax dollars increase to that program, it becomes increasingly unsustainable. And that's one of the things we want to expose too. Most people don't know that there was a statute put into place about 10 years ago, well, exactly 10 years ago next year, that every year, a few more kids can enter the program from each district based on a certain percentage until the year 2026, when the cap on enrollment will come off altogether. Well, Wisconsin is not prepared for that free-for-all, and we need to make sure that we are ready to expose the costs, to understand what they mean to local kids in our public schools that serve the vast majority of Wisconsin kids, and really hold the line on demanding fair funding, because Lord knows we did not get fair funding in the last state budget. And if we're going to do better, it's going to start with us being better watchdogs where we live.
Heather, the whole notion of transparency, I just find rich, no pun intended, from a lot of folks who love to talk about taxpayer transparency until it's something that's important to them. And so now you have the potential for people to learn more about this. And on our Facebook page, Chris Hambuck Boyle has been putting in the exact web addresses that people can click on. But really, if you go to Wisconsin
Thanks,
Network.
Chris.
Yes, thank you. If you go to wisconsonnetwork.org/events, and even if you just go to wisconsonnetwork.org, you go to events, and then from there, it'll be very clear to see the Go Public Transparency Project. It's on September 16th, so that'll be Tuesday of next week, 6:30 via Zoom, but you do need people to pre-register, I would assume.
Yep, we need you to register in advance, and once you do, we will send you the link to participate in the event. You're going to get a toolkit. You're going to get access to people like Chris, who can do a one-on-one consultation with you, help you understand what specifically in your community you're going to need to do, because this is a bit of a choose-your-own adventure. No two municipalities do their tax bills exactly the same way, so you're going to have to do a little bit of investigating to get started. But again, it's not as hard as it sounds, and we're here to make it fun, but also to help you tap into some energy around making sure that local kids have what they need that you might not have known was going on around the state. But let me tell you, it is. And people are ready to stand up for and defend their public schools, and we hope you're one of them.
Heather Dubois-Born on from Wisconsin Public Education Network, wisconsonnetwork.org. Heather, thank you so much for all you do. It's great to talk to you again. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks. It's always great to see you, Pat.
You bet. Thanks. Take
Hope
care
to see
now.
everybody next week.
You bet. So it's always good to connect with Heather. And one point I want to underscore again very quickly is there's always been an enrollment cap on the program, and that cap's about to be lifted, and that can blow such a hole in the next state budget if this whole monster isn't addressed. In our next hour, we're going to talk to David Crowley, Milwaukee County Executive and candidate for governor. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. There we go. All right. Oh, Heather, you're a godsend. Thank you so much. We'll see you later. How is Jimmy today?
I'm doing all right. Just trying to figure out how to not get beat by 100 points on Saturday. We're playing the number 3 team in the state, and we are very injured right now. So,
oh,
well, it's life. It's high school football. But no, otherwise I'm good. So
okay, all right. We got some lacrosse area things to talk about.
Yeah, you guys are probably going to want to talk about David Crowley having an event this morning in lacrosse. He's on your show. Sarah Rodriguez was just in lacrosse a couple of days ago on her statewide tour. And then obviously the big thing happening right now is that they have fenced off a couple of parks in lacrosse for what they're calling a deep cleaning, but the optics are pretty terrible, and people are concerned. So
deep cleaning, yes, that does sound.
Yeah, it's thinly veiled that they're just trying to keep homeless populations out. So
so we really have an issue there. Okay.
Yeah, lacrosse is pretty famous for their aggressive takes on how to deal with the homeless issue. So
I see. Okay. Okay. Let's see. What have I got here? I was looking for Oshkosh here at 55. Okay. 48. All right. Okay, we did those already. Got a minute and a half till we're back.
All good. I'm here.
Okay.
Jimmy, is Platteville home this week, or is that next week that you get?
Yeah, this is a road week. I get to call the game next week against Springfield. So
okay,
they're at Dubuque on Saturday. Battle of the Bridge, something that Dubuque takes very seriously, and Platteville doesn't even mention in their game notes. So
yeah,
I asked Ryan Munns about it, and he's just like, "Okay." It wasn't. I don't. It's not something. I mean, it's like one of those things. It's kind of a neat idea, you know. But
yeah,
Platteville, and it's been kind of one-sided. I mean, Dubuque's a pretty good program, but
it's a nice program.
They lost last week. Who they played last week? Stout, I think. I forget who they played.
Yes, I think it was Stout.
Yeah, they lost, and yeah, I don't know. Platteville is looking pretty good to start the year, despite having only 7 seniors in the 2 deep. So
yeah, I don't.
All right, 20 seconds.
Sorry.
We've got Earl Ingram coming up right after the 8 o'clock news to talk about what's going on. That's the name of his podcast, the What's Going On podcast with Earl Ingram. We will also be talking with a guest from Clean, Wisconsin about data centers and their growth, but also the growth and how much water they're sucking out of the ground to keep all those servers cool. And it's starting to impact the neighbors. So that's coming up at 8:35. But then 1 hour from right now, we will be talking to Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, who has just announced his entry into the race for governor. So he's making the rounds around the state, including lacrosse today. And Jimmy Koska helps cover the lacrosse area and other parts of Southwest Wisconsin for Civic Media, and joins us now, as he always does, Wednesdays at this point. Jimmy, how you doing today?
Doing great. It's neat that lacrosse is once again the center of Wisconsin's political universe today.
It has been for a long time, dating back to when Al Gore started his riverboat ride from lacrosse back in, what year was that? 2000. That's right. How could I ever forget? I got kidnapped on board that riverboat. That's a story for another time. Anyway, so as we talk about what's happening in the area there, not only David Crowley, but Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez, another candidate for governor, I gather was in the area not long ago.
Yep. So Rodriguez is on what they're calling a 72 county tour around the state. So lacrosse was a stop on Monday. Or excuse me, today's Monday. Yeah, so it was Monday the 8th. Sorry, my days are all mixed up with this weird week. So here in western Wisconsin, it's been really interesting. Just the last 5-6 years where all of a sudden it's a competitive congressional district, and you've got presidential candidates stopping here. You've got the vice president here just a week or two ago, and now you've had two of the prominent governor candidates that have appearances here, with David Crowley having an event this morning in La Crosse. So there are no shortage of political events happening in and around the Coulee region, and this week is just the latest example of what I think people around the state really view as an extremely competitive and important area politically, because the 3rd congressional district itself represents such a wide swath of interest in Wisconsin, everything from college towns and hospitals and manufacturing to obviously agriculture and tourism and all that. So there's a lot of things here, a lot of different people, a really good mix of representation here in Wisconsin. So it's not surprising that that it not only is it competitive politically, but that people in politics take it seriously and spend their time and campaign over here.
The 3rd congressional district, I mean, it sprawls. It's built around 3 different population centers: the Eau Claire area, the La Crosse area, and the Stevens Point area, in a weirdly shaped district that we'll get into that reason some other time. But still, it's the La Crosse area that draws the most attention. It's why the vice president, J.D. Vance, was there recently, looking to prop up Derek Van Orden in his run for a 3rd term in office. And so now you have David Crowley coming in talking about the run for governor. And we most recently heard from him on the topic of affordable housing. He was in the Eau Claire area week before last talking about affordable housing. And I don't doubt that he'll be asked about it in La Crosse, in part because of this new development with a couple of the public parks in La Crosse being closed and fenced off, which is said to be due to safety concerns. But it seems pretty clear to most that these are also issues involving what you could call the unsheltered community. And this is a city that is still struggling to deal with affordable housing and homelessness.
One of the hottest topics anytime we get on Al Gore's internet to talk about with La Crosse is the unhoused population, whether whether it was Huska Park and everything that was happening there, some of the crime issues they were having there, to the ordinances banning public camping, banning staying in parking ramps, banning that, and then increasing the ban to any city-owned property. So that includes parks and the parking ramps and things like that. It ended up pushing people out to parks and to DNR land along the rivers that run through La Crosse. And so now last week it was announced that they were going to be closing both Cameron and Burns Park. They put up fences this week to announce that they were deep cleaning these parks. They're doing it in the interest of public safety. But a lot of people are looking at this as it's a thinly veiled, it's just the latest thing in how the city is aggressively dealing with unhoused people and an issue that has plagued La Crosse for several years. And a lot of the policy and a lot of the work and what La Crosse is doing, a lot of the important work they're doing, the Pathways Home program is a fantastic example of how they are trying to deal with this as a municipality, as a region, and trying to find better solutions to things. But it is a huge thing, not just for La Crosse, but for a lot of communities. And, La Crosse probably deserves a little credit for trying to come up with ways to serve all interests with how they're doing this. But, seeing fencing going up at public parks, I mean, that the optics are just not great for that. And people are calling that out. Anywhere you look online in La Crosse, people are calling it out and not enjoying the fact that this is a visual reminder of what the city is doing in addressing some of these issues.
And by the way, it cuts across different areas. It's not just about affordable housing and the economy at large, but it's also about mental health issues and access to resources there, as opposed to people literally having to live on the streets for lack of these resources. And so,
but very quickly, because I know we're running out of time, that they are pushing to get mental health treatment centers, resources in the Coulee region, because right now everything is in southern and eastern Wisconsin. There's nothing in western Wisconsin. So there is a legislative push to bring some of those resources to western Wisconsin, and specifically La Crosse.
Jimmy Koska, thank you so much as always. Appreciate your coverage. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. And coming up after the 8 o'clock news, we'll talk to Earl Ingram. In our climate check this week, we will be talking about data centers and the concern about how much groundwater is needed to support data centers. And then Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, candidate for governor, joins us at 8:52. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, we are good to go.
Hopefully that sets you up well for an hour from now.
Yeah, it really does. Thank you for doing that.
The park thing, just how recent it is, and the fact that I think one of the parks is used for the farmers market. I think it's just the optics of it are not great. So
no,
but I'm really interested to hear what you have an hour from now, because that's stuff I'll be using in my newscast today. So
okay, I'll try not to let you down.
All
Talk
right,
to you later. Thanks,
Take
Jimmy.
care.
See ya.
Continue digging through the rubble of an Israeli attack on Hamas's
Bring Earl in here before I step away for a couple minutes. Earl, how are you today?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I have not looked over at the podcast page yet to see what you got going on this week.
Well, actually, one is actually two. One is a conversation I had with the president of the police union.
Ah, okay.
And another one, and the really important one is a podcast about young people who are aging out of foster care.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And, I'm a treatment foster parent, so that is really important to me and to many young people across this nation who wind up basically just put out in the street.
Okay, got her. All right, so we'll start with the police union. It was an interview you have done?
Yes, actually, there was a protest. The police union was at the mayor's at City Hall. The police union was protesting there and marching, and so I was there to actually hear from them, and there was a counter protest as well.
Okay, gotcha. Let's see, Earl, are you able to tilt your camera down just a little bit or no? Just had a lot of headroom there. Oh,
yes.
Oh, perfect. That's perfect. All right. I'll see you after the weather. Thanks.
All right.
What Asha herself had to say.
I am fast. I hold all city records and pool records across Madison. Being part of a team makes me feel like I am part of something bigger than me, a community.
The families say another student with disabilities was excluded too. Aurelia Bergstrom is a freshman at West this year. Her dad, Charlie Bergstrom.
There's a silent, nefarious message being sent to all kids that those with disabilities are less than, potentially reversing all the work that the district, the staff at West in particular, that Coach Elmaker has done to foster a culture that's actually in line with the stated goals of the district.
A spokesperson for the district released a statement to multiple outlets saying, quote, "The Madison Metropolitan School District is deeply committed to ensuring that all students have access to safe, inclusive, and welcoming opportunities in our schools. We understand the importance of athletics and co-curricular programs to the educational experience and encourage involvement to the greatest extent possible," end quote. The families are asking the district to reverse course and let the girls back on the team. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson, 92.7 WMDX News.
The Packers in prime time. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Last Sunday's game between the Packers and Lions drew 24 million viewers, the most watched Week 1 game on CBS in 28 years. Tomorrow night, they host the Washington Commanders. Green Bay defensive end Micah Parsons has had some of his best games against Washington during his time with the Cowboys.
I don't know, just the strategy, coaching, understand who you're playing against. They're just an explosive team, starting with that quarterback, and it just means a lot more. You got to get to them.
The Packers could be without right tackle Zach Tom and left guard Aaron Banks, both dealing with injuries. There'll be game time decisions. And the team signing Christian Watson to a one-year extension worth over $13 million, even though he's still rehabbing a torn ACL. College football, the Badgers will play at Alabama for the first time ever this Saturday. Game time 11 a.m. Danny O'Neal likely to start at quarterback again. Women's volleyball, the Badgers beating the UWM Panthers last night, 3-0 in straight sets. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Come work with us. Civic Media has a number of great jobs across the state. Open now at civicmedia.us/careers.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Bormans. Maybe a few sprinkles in the morning. Otherwise, partly sunny skies can be expected. Another nice September day with highs in the mid-70s. Partly cloudy skies expected tonight with lows in the mid-50s. A bit summery on Thursday. Plenty of sunshine with highs near 80 degrees. Currently, it's 55 degrees.
My name is DeMar Hamlin. I play for the Buffalo Bills, and I play safety. CPR saved my life. I've teamed up with the American Heart Association as a national ambassador to help create a nation of lifesavers, turning bystanders into lifesavers through CPR education and access to AEDs. Nearly 3 out of 4 cardiac arrests that don't happen in hospitals happen in homes. Join me to ensure everyone has the chance to live longer, healthier lives. Visit heart.org/nation.
The Todd Albaugh Show.
Mr. Pat Kreitlow joins us from Lake Wissota.
Everything that I know about high culture, everything I know about opera, for example, comes from Bugs Bunny cartoons. The kids are missing out these days. They got Bluey and all of that.
Well, now it's all like
we had coyotes falling off of cliffs. Come on.
Exactly. And now it's all this educational crap.
We really have just become the two old men rocking on the porch talking about days gone by.
The Todd Albaugh Show.
That will forever be my favorite promo.
Guilty. Just guilty.
15 seconds.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Welcome back and good morning. It is 8:06. Nice to have you here up north on this Wednesday morning, September 10th. Parker Olson is producing this shindig down in Madison Studio A2. Meteorologist Brittany Merlot is standing by as well. So is Earl Ingram. We'll be talking about issues in Milwaukee and his What's Going On podcast. We'll have a guest from Clean Wisconsin later this hour talking about data centers. They are sold as job creators. They are sold as the thing that's going to change the internet with artificial intelligence or AI, but they also suck up a lot of groundwater in a community. And so we'll talk about concerns regarding that. And then we'll wrap up the hour at 8:52 with a conversation with Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, who's working his way to La Crosse, where he's making an appearance today after entering the race for Wisconsin governor. So before we get to all that, let's see, we've got in the mailbag here, we talked about all the many events going on around Wisconsin this weekend, and you need to get to an event. It's going to be a gorgeous weekend. There is no reason to be shut in this weekend. There's got to be some place to go. I listed several, but Tom in Hartford said, don't forget Road America Fall Vintage. Noted. We talked about this being the anniversary of the Swanson TV dinner. Jana in Waukesha says, I loved the turkey and gravy dinner in the 90s even. And Fresh Prince, which also had its anniversary today, is an institution as far as TV goes. And Michael put in a comment from earlier. We were talking about casseroles and how I finally made casserole with tater tots for the first time yesterday. And Michael saying, I used cheddar cheese and chopped celery. I'm sorry, cheddar cheese soup and chopped celery in my tater tot casserole, and I add crumbled bacon.
Oh.
Look at this. Now, Brittany and Parker, they're intrigued by all this.
If you utter the words bacon, my ears perk up.
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
And tater tot.
You lost me at celery. I do not like celery. I don't know what it is about it, but I just don't. But all that other bacon, I mean, come on. You had me a pick. We had a staff meeting. Yeah. I don't know who it was, and I don't want to out this person. She seems like a perfectly fine person. It's not Brittany Merlot, but there is somebody at Civic Media who, in a staff call yesterday, said, I don't like the smell of bacon.
Yeah.
And you just, you get these little emojis that you can put, like thumbs up or applauding hands. I don't know if we could see her through all the thumbs down emojis that people metaphorically want to put on there. people saying, what kind of a monster are you? You're not required to love bacon. We're just not sure what's the matter that you don't love bacon.
To say it's bad is wild.
Yeah. So look, it takes all of us. That's not just a saying for the end zone, but for the kitchen as well. It takes all of us. Whether you
Can Brett Favre get behind bacon?
Yeah. Brett Favre would call all this divisive, but anyway. All right. So there ends bacon and casserole chatter for today. Let's go to Brittany now with a quick update on the forecast. And we haven't returned to summer yet, so don't look for it today, but it is definitely on the way.
It is around the corner. And if we could only have bacon raining from the sky, then people wouldn't be so mad, right?
Yes.
Oh, goodness. It's dreary. It's a little damp out there this morning. We have dense fog up north, a pretty big cloud sitting right on the ground for a lot of the Northwoods right now with a dense fog advisory in effect until 10 a.m. This goes from Ashland to Eau Claire into Hayward, Superior, even Eagle River can barely see this morning. And then we've got spotty showers working through the central parts of the state, from Madison to Wausau, moving in towards the Fox Valley. The only sunshine out there this morning is along Lake Michigan, and that's not going to stay. Temperatures right now, mid-50s to low 60s, and we are looking at scattered showers, light sprinkles continuing very isolated on and off through the eastern half of the state today. More sunshine will try to peek through those clouds farther to the west, and highs today will be in the upper 60s far north to low 70s far south, so still a cooler day today. Fog pushes back in again overnight, and then tomorrow we'll see more spots of sunshine, slightly warmer, low to mid 70s for highs, maybe an 80-degree far south, and then we're all going to start to flirt with 80 degrees for Friday. It'll be partly sunny, a little warmer, a little bit more muggy. Rain could roll in late Friday night into early Saturday morning, and then it leaves us in the summer weather. Humid, I will tell you that. Highs will be in the mid to low 80s both Saturday and Sunday. Places far south could be nearing 90 on Saturday, actually. So a warm one expected, and that holds. Those temperatures do hold as we move into next week, too. So it's not just a short little blast. Summer's here for a little bit, just a little bit.
What a nice little gift you've given us before you start your long weekend. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Leaving us in good hands. Mother Nature's good hands. Have a fun long weekend. We will talk to you next week.
That sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Brittany. And you can always get your local forecast updates throughout the day here on your favorite civic media stations. Let's jump right into Earl Ingram. I'm going to ask him about David Crowley, the county executive there running for governor. But before that, we've got to talk about the police union head down there in Milwaukee and this whole notion of, whether to support the idea of Donald Trump putting troops on the streets of Milwaukee. Earl Ingram from the What's Going On podcast. Earl, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Pat?
I'm good, thank you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you on these Wednesday mornings. And so let's start with your conversations about, Milwaukee police union support for the idea of troops, which is not necessary. I get the impression this isn't like a pro-military thing. It's more of a, we need some kind of resources, we'll take whatever we can get kind of thing. And that doesn't sit well with everybody.
Well, what's happening in the city of Milwaukee and the issue with the police department is that they can't find enough people who want to become police officers. And so there's a shortage of over 200 officers in the city. And I don't have to tell you what kind of a problem that is if you're going to be 200 short in the largest city in the state of Wisconsin. And clearly it is needed. Police officers are needed. There clearly are things that go on in a city like Milwaukee that you need to have law enforcement. And the fact that we're short many officers is becoming a major problem. And, on the one hand, I'm a guy who is not calling for the National Guard. The mayor doesn't want to see the National Guard. The Common Council, the governor doesn't want to see that. But on the other hand, when you're short so many officers, you sometimes wonder.
Right, and that's what the mayor of Washington D.C. said with the troops, and Trump was talking about all the arrests and crime going down, and she said, "Well, yeah, if you gave me 500 more police officers, I could get that as well." It's not this is not an apples and oranges comparison. It's really an indictment of support for our large cities in this time of, constant austerity and hostility coming from Republicans who control the budget strings.
Well, you just kind of hit the ball out of the park. At the root of it is the fact that Republicans have been controlling what happens, and there are people who are at wit's end, and there are people who struggle economically in the wealthiest nation on earth. Everybody's not prospering, even though the stock market is booming. There are people who are struggling every day to put food on the table, and I don't have to tell you that if the option is me not being able to survive, I'm going to do whatever it takes for me to survive. And you got people who are in that kind of situation.
Mm-hmm. Before we go on to the podcast topics, I did want to ask, the Milwaukee County Executive, David Crowley, will be on the show here just over 30 minutes from now, talking about his entry into the campaign for governor. Is it something that you expected, and what kind of a campaign might we expect from David Crowley?
I clearly expected it. I know the county executive well. I remember the first time he even entered into politics. And I used to always say he was my favorite elected official, even when he was at a fledgling elected official. So I don't put anything past the young man. He is certainly a very bright young man who's got a bright future in politics. Governor is a stretch. Considering there's only one black governor in the United States, and there's only been 4 historically in this nation, it's, anything's possible.
Yeah. Yep. Talking to Earl Ingram. He has the What's Going On podcast, which you can get at civicmedia.us. And you've got a couple of new episodes here. We hinted at one last week and wanted to hear more from you about the whole notion of aging out of foster care and the kind of thing that, that's been a thing, of course, as long as there's been foster care, but it continues to be a challenge for young people and for society overall.
As a treatment foster parent myself for the last 22 plus years, I am cognizant of what young people are faced with. And what I don't understand about our nation is children don't get to pick their parents. They don't get to pick their families. And as a society, I think the way we handle young people who, again, through no fault of their own, are born into the conditions and situations that they are, that we basically turn a blind eye to them. I think our nation does a disservice when it does that. And so, we want to bring attention to the fact that there are young people all over this nation who have had a tough go of it. And when we pull the plug on them and say, hey, you're on your own, it's time for you to test your wings, even knowing their backgrounds, I think we set them up to wind up doing some nefarious things. I'm not saying that that's the case, but you certainly make it a whole lot easier if survival is the first law of nature. We kind of leave people in bad situations.
Yeah. And then there's one more episode I know that's coming up here. It's entitled Forgetful Minds Need Support. And Diane Beckley Milner is your guest about how Alzheimer's impacts not only the individual, but the whole family.
The Alzheimer's situation, we went in depth with Alzheimer's, and what most people might not know is dementia, and all of those things come under the guise of dementia, and many different issues and people are faced with. And we went deep into it because sometimes you go upstairs and you forget your keys, and you go upstairs, and there are times that I wonder, well, what did I come up here for? And so we wanted to make it clear that if you're forgetful on certain things, we shouldn't automatically think that you're headed towards dementia or Alzheimer's, but that we should, certain things that you see happening to you and your loved ones, you need to stay on top of it.
All right. You can learn all about this from the What's Going On with Earl Ingram podcast. Head over to civicmedia.us and click on shows. All the episodes are there. Get subscribed to it wherever you listen to your podcast as well. Listen to it on demand. It's very good listening and great information that we're getting from Earl. Appreciate your time, Earl, as always. Thanks so much. Hope you have a good day.
You as well.
All right. Again, civicmedia.us is where you go to learn more about that. Now, coming up in our next half hour, we're going to be talking to a guest from Clean Wisconsin. There are data centers going up in Wisconsin. There are big data centers being proposed around Wisconsin, but at what cost? I mean, there was a recent network news report about how after a Meta data center was built in the state of Georgia, residents around there would turn on their water taps and nothing would come out. We'll talk about that and a live interview with Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley at 8:52, candidate for governor. All ahead. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Patriot takes home the Freedom 5.
I hadn't done that in a while.
What's that?
The the commercials.
Oh. Amy Barlow from the group Clean Wisconsin will be joining us in less than 15 minutes now to talk about data centers and water usage. Melissa Baldoff, normally heard at this point for Climate Check. She's off this week. We'll see her again coming up next week here on these mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News across the Civic Media Radio Network. We've got afternoon baseball on certain stations here. The Brewers taking on the Texas Rangers. Pregame begins at 1 o'clock this afternoon on stations in Hayward, Park Falls, Racine, Kenosha, Oshkosh, and Richland Center. Head over to the Civic Media website to learn more. And of course, you'll be able to hear the Green Bay Packers playing tomorrow night, hosting the Washington Commanders. That pregame starts tomorrow at 5 p.m. on several Civic Media radio stations. It's also, because it's a Thursday night, it's an Amazon Prime game, which means not everybody's going to be able to find it on their TV. This would be a great chance for you to listen to Wayne and Larry and everybody else who's on the radio call across the Packer radio network. Back to the Brewers for a second. A reminder that Free Ticket Friday rolls on. And so this coming Friday, day after tomorrow, again, you will get a chance to text in a keyword and be in the running for 4 great tickets to a future Brewers game. So stick around for that as well. On the text line here from Jim in Brookfield, Earl should be commended for all that he has done as a foster parent and foster children programs. He clearly is an individual who practices what he preaches. Thank you, Earl, from Jim in Brookfield. And John in Oshkosh on the text line. Always great to hear you, Earl. And again, we're always happy to bring him along on Wednesday mornings and share what he's got to say coming up on his podcast. And again, civicmedia.us to get that. Okay, a few odds and ends before we get back to guests here to wrap up the program. First, out of Michigan, a story that I'm not happy about, but again, this is how the wheels of justice turn. A judge in Michigan has tossed out the criminal cases against fake electors in that state, saying that the fake electors did not understand that they were being asked to do something illegal. It is a real setback to prosecute allies of Donald Trump who tried to stay in power by staging essentially a coup, by trying to overturn the will of the voters, by trying to overturn an American election. But State District Court Judge Kristen D. Simmons, an appointee of Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer, said, "I don't believe that there's evidence sufficient to prove intent." And that's really what this has come down to. The judge says, right, wrong, or indifferent, it was these individuals and many others who sincerely believed for some reason that there were some serious irregularities with the election or with the voting, and that somehow their candidate didn't receive all the votes that was intended for them. This is not for the court to decide whether that was true or false, but this was their belief, and their actions were prompted by that belief. I believe they were executing their constitutional right to seek redress. Well, Your Honor, with all due respect, I could sincerely believe that Parker Olson was cheated by a bank and deserves money from the bank. And as a result, he says he's going to the bank and would I be the driver? And then he robs the bank. I'm the getaway driver now. No matter how sincere my beliefs were in what I was being asked to do, I was part of a crime, part of a criminal conspiracy. That is exactly what the fake electors were doing. And let's be clear about something. I was among those who at the time said, well, these fake electors say that they're doing this just in case there are irregularities, even though we all knew at the time not one concrete piece of irregularities had been shown to exist at all. It was all made up by Donald Trump. And then we found out later the true nature of the conspiracy, including a couple of lawyers with Wisconsin ties, Kenneth Chesbrough and Jim Trupis, were in on it. They recruited these fake electors, some of them more knowledgeable about the scheme than others, but they were all getaway drivers. And every one of them deserves some sort of consequences for the fraud that they perpetuated. Now, in Wisconsin's case, the criminal charges are basically forgery, a felony charge of forgery, which sounds about right, sounds about fair. And I hope we don't have the case of, a judge somewhere in this Wisconsin matter looking and saying the same thing like, well, they didn't have the intent to rob this bank. Well, they took part in it anyway. And that's how these things unfold. One other note, we have to go way back now in the time capsule. I'm not even going to ask Parker about Oliver North and Fawn Hall and the Iran-Contra scandal, but they were two big features, two big figures in the 1980s in this scandal during the Reagan administration, the one where Oliver North, helped arrange the illegal sale of U.S. weapons to Iran, and then used that to fund a secret war in Nicaragua. And Oliver North was kind of the ringleader, and Fawn Hall was his young and attractive secretary who was shredding some of the documents. And she got a lot of attention when she was testifying on this matter. And there were whispers about Oliver North and Fawn Hall, but they, repeatedly denied it over the years. And now all these many years later, with Oliver North in his 80s and Fawn Hall long since retired, and their spouses have passed away, they clearly have stayed connected because they just got married. Oliver North wedding Fawn Hall, his secretary back in the 1980s during the Iran-Contra scandal. And again, they say that there was nothing between them in all those years. They each married other people. Life went on. And then at the funeral for one of their spouses, they reconnected. So there again, we have a massive cultural touchstone from the 1980s that Parker Olson knows nothing about. You don't, do you? Iran-Contra.
Crazy.
Yeah,
You met your future at the funeral?
Oh, like that's the first time that's happened. We're talking about data centers. Data centers next. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Oh, that's nuts. All right. I'm going to get Amy. Then if you just want to get that microphone up there close for you.
Yep.
And we can do some sound check for you.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. I actually wanted to start by providing a correction to some information I gave on the Todd Allball show, if that's possible. About data centers. It's about data centers.
Yeah, for sure. Pat, are you here? Are you listening?
I am there. Amy, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. How are you? How do I turn?
Are you able to hear me okay?
I think. Oh, it's that one. I can hear you. You just sound a little far off.
Oh, okay. I'll have Parker work on that here. First off, my apologies. I had a pronunciation on your name somewhere, and then I set it aside and completely whiffed. And sorry to get your name wrong there. We'll make sure it's Barrio, correct?
It's Barrio. That's right.
Barrio. Yep. So we'll get that right off the bat. And yeah, we'll get into this topic. And then, do you want me to lead into something in particular about what you said on Todd's show?
So on Todd's show, I said that the data center that's being developed in Port Washington would use as much energy as 4 million homes once it's fully complete, but it's actually 2 million. So that is, I really, really apologize that I have given the incorrect information. And so I really want to correct that.
Sure.
Because it's important to get things right, even though, it's still a large number of homes.
I was going to say, it's still monstrously large.
It's not zero, but I do want to correct that.
Yep. No, we'll definitely take care of that.
Okay.
Let's see. We've got that there. Let me pull this out. And we got your name spelled correctly. You're there. Barrilleux.
Yep.
Okay. Then I think we're in good shape here. All right. We will get going in 2 minutes. All right.
Okay.
See
Sounds
you in a
good.
bit. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. It's that first knob on there.
Yeah. So I turned some other knobs, but I think those were just
Remember, you can sign up for our newsletters, the weekday version with its new newsletter editor, Ellie Bordeaux, who got started today, a Conomowoc native. And of course, the version that I write, more politics based on the weekends. Sign up for those at upnorthnewswi.com and click subscribe at the banner at the top of our homepage. All right, let's turn our attention now to data centers. We're hearing all about artificial intelligence and the need for all of these data centers to hold that and all the other information that we're busy Googling and sending and sharing. And data centers are basically the cloud. The cloud is not something light and fluffy and doesn't take up a lot of space. The cloud is monstrous, and it has a monstrous appetite for things like water to keep things cool. Amy Barrio from Clean Wisconsin is joining us now to talk a bit more about that, not just from the standpoint of Wisconsin projects and proposals, but just the concept around the country where some communities are starting to learn the real cost of these data centers. Amy Barrio, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us in studio down there in Madison from Clean Wisconsin. You can find them at cleanwisconsin.org with plenty of things that you can learn. For example, there's a column here called AI Data Centers and the Artificial Need for Dirty Energy. Amy, the upshot of all this is basically what? Just letting the public know what all is involved with every time one of these data centers is proposed for Wisconsin?
Yeah, I think things are happening really fast. A couple years ago, we'd never even thought about AI data centers. And now suddenly in Wisconsin, we're juggling a number of AI data center projects. And the thing to understand is these data centers use a lot of energy. So, we're talking the one that is proposed in Port Washington could use as much energy once it's complete as 2 million homes. And I want to apologize. I said on Todd Alball's show 4 million homes. And if Todd, you're listening, I apologize. I pulled over the wrong piece of information for that. But that number is 2 million homes.
Oh,
And
wait.
that's
So it's only 2 million
only
homes that this thing could power for this one proposed for Port Washington. So
for this one project. Yeah.
so the correction is noted, but
Mhm.
it is still an incredible number, the amount of energy these types of facilities use.
Yeah, and I think people may not understand that. So you're talking about a data center that's on almost 2,000 acres that had been primarily farmland that is going to be converted into a space with a lot of windowless buildings. Those buildings will be full of computer servers because this AI actions take a lot of work from computers, right? This is not a small number of tasks that are being done when you ask AI something. That's an enormous task, and so these data centers are being built because I've heard it compared to an arms race, right, between the major tech companies. They want to be the big players in the AI space. And so these data centers are coming in and they are a strain on resources. So, and more energy than we've ever produced before for one single user. This will be the biggest energy user in the history of the state once it's built. And not only do these data centers use energy, they also use water for cooling. And right now, we don't have a lot of transparency around how much water exactly is going to be pulled from our lakes and our aquifers for these data centers. There's not a lot of transparency about how they're going to operate, what the noise levels are going to be, how many diesel generators are going to be on site that need to be fired up to be used as backup and tested once a month. So there's a lot of baggage, I guess, that comes along with these data centers that the public doesn't always know, um, really until they're already approved.
So this is again something that we talk about clean energy all the time, green energy, a whole new economy. And it would be easy to lump data centers into that because, again, it doesn't look like a factory. There isn't a pipe that sludge comes out of, for example. But like you said, when it comes to the amount of water required, the amount of electricity required, is it your view that any community where this is proposed needs to treat this no differently than any other old school factory that's coming in and using your resources?
Well, I think we need to recognize what the differences are. Again, this is a scale of energy use that we have never seen. Um, having the biggest energy user in the state uh, ever, an energy user that, when I say 2 million homes, we don't have a city in Wisconsin that has 2 million homes. So this will be like a city in Wisconsin that doesn't have any people in it. But it's going to be using that much energy. And the energy utilities, We Energies in this case, want those data centers to come here. They want the profits that go along with building new energy generation to meet those needs because they make a rate of return every time they build something, profit. So we have to recognize that a lot of times we have energy companies like We Energies or like Alliant Energy in the case of a data center that is being proposed in Dane County that are actively luring these data centers here. And what we don't get is a lot of transparency. So we don't understand exactly how much energy is going to be used right away. We don't understand where the water is coming from, how much water is getting used. On the hottest days of the year, how much water is going to be needed to cool that data center when we all need those resources, when our farmers need them, our communities need them. How much of our resources are we going to be sharing with the data centers? And so it's a bit like any other industry that has come to Wisconsin in the past, but then again, it's very, very different because we just haven't encountered anything like this before. We don't know how many new gas plants, We Energies is planning to build to meet the needs of this one data center. But we do know if it does meet those needs with gas plants, the communities where those plants are located will be harmed by air pollution. We know that we'll be pushed further from reaching any kind of climate goals in Wisconsin. So we need to take this seriously, and we need to start demanding real transparency, and we need to start demanding that these data centers come with a plan to meet their needs in a sustainable way. And right now, we're not seeing that.
We're talking to Amy Barrio from Clean Wisconsin about data centers and the amount of resources being needed. And I was looking at a New York Times article from over the summer when Meta, the parent company of Facebook, broke ground on a $750 million data center about 90 minutes east of Atlanta. The neighbors all around that area suddenly noticed there was no water coming out of their taps. And so there was all this potential for jobs, which are primarily in the construction field of building these things in the first place. And then they're there. And now that water taps are running dry by the neighbors, it reminds me of an issue that we've talked about from a legislative standpoint across rural Wisconsin, so-called high capacity wells, where for these mega farms, they seek high capacity wells to irrigate all these fields. But again, at what price to the neighbor's water supply and to our aquifers overall? And again, it's one thing to have a mega farm, but a mega data center, it appears to be no different in terms of how much water is needed to keep these servers cool.
Well, I mean, we've seen historically, and by historically, I mean in the last several years, that these AI data centers are using a tremendous amount of water for cooling. The data centers that are being proposed in Wisconsin right now, we're getting assurances that they're going to be using a new kind of cooling system that is a closed loop system. So they're going to withdraw some amount of water, but then recycle it to use it over and over again for cooling. But those data centers appear to be more energy intensive than the ones that don't use the closed loop system. And it's important for us to understand that power plants use a lot of water. So if we're going to shift the water use from on site to power plants in the region, we're still, again, providing our water resources to this data center. And so when I talk about transparency, I mean on all levels, like how much water is this data center really using, not just on site, but regionally in Wisconsin? Because one thing I think maybe we don't always think about is we're sitting in the middle of the largest freshwater system in the world, the Great Lakes region. And tech companies know that. We in Wisconsin, we are lucky to have, fresh water, plentiful water, and also a lot of land that's currently being used for agriculture. So
And
we are desirable, I would say.
Oh gosh, without a doubt. It's something we've talked about for many years, that folks in, say, the desert Southwest would love to extend a giant straw, to the Midwest to water their lawns and for drinking.
Yeah.
But instead, we're now seeing the the sucking up of our water for something that, again, would not necessarily come to us, that we would not get a direct benefit from. So, Amy, to start to tie a bow on this, the website is cleanwisconsin.org for folks that want to learn more. Do you have other resources or other actions that you hope that people will take when it comes to data centers being proposed?
Well, right now, we're hopeful that soon there's going to be some legislation that's about this transparency that I'm talking about. Because right now there's really nothing. There's no legal avenue or policy avenue for a community to use when a big data center project comes to town if it gets approved by their local lawmakers. So, what we're calling for is transparency. And so when we have something that's public that people can kind of throw their support behind, we'll be sure to let you know. Right now, it's just about getting out information so people can at least be informed about what data centers are, what they can mean, and why this issue is important.
And I suppose not just for any regular folks, but I would imagine if people are on county boards, town boards, city councils, rather than waiting for some proposal to be dropped in their laps, and now you face the pressure of making a decision, it would be a pretty good idea if elected officials, local elected officials around the state, started to bone up on this right now before the first requests come in.
Yeah, they need to start learning about what this means because once a request comes in, these things move very fast. And communities, small communities that don't normally face this kind of pressure are facing a big time pressure because we know how much money tech companies have and how powerful they are. And they're just getting more and more powerful. And that's a lot to stand up to. So, yeah, people in local communities should start understanding this issue.
Yeah. And before I let you go, obviously this is one aspect, one issue that Clean Wisconsin is working on, but I know everything from, the Enbridge Line 5 up north and a host of other projects. The folks at Clean Wisconsin, they're not sitting around bored. There are plenty of projects that y'all are working on right now.
Yeah, the environment, it's a lot. It's a lot to protect. So, you mentioned Line 5. We're in the middle of a legal case against the DNR for permits that were issued to build 41 miles of new Line 5 section through some pristine areas of northern Wisconsin. So that's a big focus right now. But we work on everything from water and wetland protection to clean energy to sustainable farming. And if it has to do with the environment, we're on it.
Amy Vario from Clean Wisconsin, cleanwisconsin.org. Amy, thank you very much. I really appreciate having you on today.
Thank you.
All right. And like I said, Amy has been on with Todd Alba before and is on other shows to keep us updated on all kinds of matters that are happening in terms of protecting our natural resources. Economic development is extremely important in the state, no doubt about that. But it really is a matter of research and transparency and taking that balanced approach so that we're not, essentially eating our own seed corn when it comes to the notion of economic development. We're looking to talk to Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley up next, candidate for governor in 2026 here in the state of Wisconsin. Live from Lake Wissota across the Civic Media Radio Network, I'm Pat Kreitlow. Back in a bit. All right, we are in the break. Amy, thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, good to talk to you. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay.
All right, we're back in 20 seconds.
Hey there, David.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Good to see you. We'll be up in 10 seconds. Stand by. We've got afternoon baseball coming up here across Civic Media Radio Network. 1 o'clock, the pregame begins for the third and final game of the Brewers series in Arlington against the Texas Rangers. Again, 1 o'clock this afternoon. Then they're off tomorrow for a home series this weekend against the St. Louis Cardinals. Again, tune in across the Civic Media Radio Network this afternoon for a little matinee baseball. Let's turn our attention now to the race for governor and Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, who is touring the state now after getting into the race, as he promised he would, for the race to become the next governor of the state of Wisconsin in 2026. And David joins us live now. David, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, Pat. Thank you for having me.
Very good. I understand you're on the road today, I think La Crosse, if I heard correctly.
Yes, I am in La Crosse today. I was in Madison yesterday, and so we already started to crisscross around the state to talk about our vision for Wisconsin.
Yeah. Again, for folks who haven't seen it, an excellent campaign launch video talking a bit about your background and why you're running for governor. So that's a 2-minute video rather than a 2-minute answer. Why don't you give me the short version of what you're telling folks about you and why you're deciding to run for governor?
Well, thank you for this opportunity. And one, I think it's important to acknowledge that Governor Evers, he's been able to be the steady, calm strength that we've needed for the past almost decade, right? He's led us through the pandemic. He's protect our democracies, protect working families from a lot of the harm that has been going on across our country. And so I spent 7 years in the state capitol, so I know exactly how Madison works. I've worked with this state legislature. And for the past 5 years, I have been leading the largest county in the entire state of Wisconsin. I represent 1 million people, about a sixth of our entire state's population, and also manage a budget of about $1.4 billion. And since 2020, I not only led Milwaukee County through the pandemic, but we've tackled some of the toughest issues, things like public safety, public health, fiscal recovery. We've invested in small businesses. We've created more options of affordable housing. We've made government more accessible. We've cut our carbon emissions in half, all while being able to deliver the largest property tax cut in Milwaukee County's history. And so I know that on day one that I'll be ready to hit the ground because I'm the only candidate in this race with legislative experience and experience running a government.
We're talking to David Crowley, the Milwaukee County Executive and candidate for governor. As you know, there are folks in the race that include the lieutenant governor. There's an industry executive. There's the county executive in Washington County. There are state legislators who think that they might be getting in as well. So you've outlined a lot of your strengths and your background. But of course, one of the shortcomings, if you will, is simply, name recognition. The way Wisconsin is, it's tough for a rural person to get known in Milwaukee or a Milwaukee person to get known in the rest of the state. Getting in the car is one of the most essential things. But tell folks what else you're doing and talking about when you go to rural Wisconsin. I wouldn't count Eau Claire as rural, but you were just in the Chippewa Valley 2 weeks ago, for example, to talk about affordable housing.
Oh, absolutely. And had a chance to join Representative Jody Emerson. And, being able to see some of the great things that they're doing in Eau Claire was just extremely wonderful. But it let me know that the issues that are facing Eau Claire, that are facing La Crosse, that are facing many of our communities, are the same issues that we're facing in Milwaukee County. The issues that we'll be focusing on, we've been able to balance our budget. We've been able to expand our opioid treatment and prevention options. And I want folks to know that these aren't Milwaukee issues. These aren't Democratic issues or Republican issues. These are Wisconsin issues. And so we're going to cut through the mustard. We want folks to know that we're not going to pay attention, to the division and to the distractions that people are going to throw in this race. We're going to speak directly to the issues facing every community. And I want them to know that I'm going to show up for them. And I've already been doing that. I led the charge across the state to build a coalition to make sure that every community of every size got their share back from Madison so they can invest in things that matter most to them. Things like police and fire, being able to invest in transportation and housing. And I want folks to know I'm going to continue to fight for them as the next governor of Wisconsin. We need a governor who understands the issues at heart, but also a governor who listens.
There are so many issues that we can talk about, and of course, our time is limited. So while affordable housing may not be at the top of a lot of lists, it's one that you have experience with in Milwaukee County. You saw what was going on in the Chippewa Valley. We just spoke in our last hour about actually fencing off city parks in La Crosse because of the issue of unsheltered folks. This is a challenge everywhere. What's been your own experience with the issue and how you might be a part of the solution?
Well, one, in order to fix these issues, it's important that those who have been negatively impacted by the problems in our community, that they're leading and bringing their voice to the table to be a part of the solution. There isn't a one size fits all to the issues facing every community across this state. And when it comes down to struggling, I know what that's like. I was evicted 3 times by the time I graduated high school. I've seen my mother struggle to, pay for the bills, put food on the table. And here in Milwaukee County, we have done great work with our Housing First model. We have been recognized 3 out of the past 5 years by the United States HUD that we've had the lowest unsheltered homeless count per capita than any other community our size across this entire country. And that's because we're putting our money where our mouth is, making sure that we're making investments up front to make sure that we save a lot more money down the line. And these are issues that's going to help every community across this state, whether we're talking about affordability, but we also need to talk about attainable housing while we talk about affordable housing. And attainable housing is housing that is available for everyone of all income levels. We know that the housing stock isn't quite there for many communities. And as Milwaukee County, we're pretty much fully built out, being one of the fully incorporated communities in the entire country. But that doesn't mean that we can't work and create creative solutions for every community across this state.
We are talking to David Crowley. He's the county executive and a candidate for governor. And if you want to hear more from him, he's going to be joining Todd Alba at 3:35 this afternoon as well. He's got a busy day ahead of him. David, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it greatly. Safe travels.
Thank you.
You bet. That's David Crowley, again, Milwaukee County executive, joining us from La Crosse, where, again, crossing the state, getting his campaign kicked off. We'll talk more about it tomorrow here as well on these Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News on the Civic Media Radio Network. Have a great Wednesday. We'll see you back here bright and early Thursday morning, 6 a.m. here up north.